Lu Ming died as food for the friends he trusted. 1 month later, humanity would freeze again. Su Fei poisoned him while Lin Xian watched. Then Lu Ming awakened 30 days before extinction. A silent mystery box granted one impossible reward daily. His first prize was cola that never emptied. The first Sunday delivered a vast time-frozen storage ring. Within days, food, medicine, fuel, and weapons vanished beyond anyone's reach. Lu Ming let out a scream and jolted violently upright from the bed. Curled like a shrimp pulled out of water, he gasped for mouthfuls of air. Sweat dripped from his chin onto the bedsheet, soaking a small patch in an instant. Instinctively, he reached under the pillow. Empty. No gun, not even that dagger worn down to half its original length. Lu Ming's heart tightened and his gaze turned ferocious in a split second. The look of a man who had killed, who had seen blood spilled. He scanned his surroundings warily. No mold-stained walls, no stench of dead rats, nor the endless howl of blizzards raging outside the window. Where was this? Lu Ming froze. He stared down at his hands, pale and clean, free of frostbite. No black grime wedged under his fingernails that could never be scrubbed away. He touched his stomach. It was not shrunken tight against his spine from hunger, and there was even a soft layer of flesh there. Ring, ring, ring. The cell phone on the bedside table suddenly blared, startling him. He grabbed it, squinting against the harsh glow of the screen. The time displayed made his pupils contract sharply. 10:30 a.m. November 1st, 2050. Lu Ming stared blankly at the date. Back. Had he really come back? There was still a full month before the extreme cold apocalypse that froze 95% of humanity to death across the globe. Lu Ming clutched the phone tightly. He remembered every detail crystal clear. 1 second earlier, that bastard Su Fei, along with that vile woman Lin Xian, had cornered him deep inside the shelter. Their supplies had run out. Su Fei had said, "Brother, lend me your legs for food." Lin Xian stood beside him, laughing, holding a pot filled with boiling water. The searing agony of flesh being sliced open. A shudder ran through Lu Ming, not from cold, but from the primal fear etched into his body's memory. He exhaled a long breath and flopped heavily back onto the mattress. Soft, so soft. This was what a proper bed felt like. Lu Ming lay still for a while, waiting for his heartbeat to slow before picking up the phone again. He wanted to check his account balance. He could not recall exactly how much money he had right now, but he needed to plan ahead. Yet the moment he unlocked the screen, a pitch-black icon popped up unannounced. Doomsday Mystery Box. Lu Ming frowned. Had he gotten malware? Annoying rogue apps were everywhere these days. He pressed and held the icon to uninstall it, yet nothing happened. He swiped left, swiped right, tried dragging it to the trash bin. He could not even open the factory reset menu. The app seemed fused to the display, immovable no matter what he did. What the hell is this thing? Lu Ming cursed under his breath. His finger slipped and tapped the icon by accident. Whoosh, the screen cut to black. No flashy opening animation. An image resembling a shipping box appeared straight away. The box was crudely drawn, as if the artist had quit halfway and scribbled it together carelessly. For words were printed across it. Today's mystery box, a line of smaller text underneath. Refreshes daily at midnight. Tap to open. Lu Ming paused, a golden finger. As a lifelong web novel reader, he knew exactly what this meant. He just never imagined such luck would fall to him. No cute system spirit appeared. No notification chimed announcing successful binding. The whole interface was deathly silent. Open. Lu Ming tentatively tapped the box. A flash of light swept across the screen. The next instant, a sudden weight pulled down on his hand. Lu Ming jolted, nearly dropping his phone. Something cold and heavy materialized out of thin air within his grasp. The texture covered in fine droplets radiating chill. It was a bottle of Coke. The large to liters bottle of happiness liquid. Lu Ming was stunned. He glanced at the phone, then back at the Coke in his hands. A line of text showed on the screen. Congratulations, you have obtained endless happiness soda. Permanently iced version description. Even if the world ends, this bottle will always remain full. Constant 3 degrees Celsius, rich fizz, sharp, refreshing bite. As long as you do not smash the bottle, it will never run dry. Lu Ming swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing for 3 years. He had scraped by in the apocalypse. He had even drunk urine to survive. As for Coke, that existed only in his dreams. It was divine nectar. In his past life, an expired flat bottle of Coke could buy a college girl a campus beauty at that. On the black market, if it was chilled, it could make Zhang Chong, the tyrannical neighborhood bully, kneel and call him grandpa. He hissed in disbelief. Lu Ming twisted open the cap. The hiss of escaping carbonation sounded like the most beautiful melody in the world. He lifted the bottle without hesitation and tilted his head back, chugging wildly. Ice-cold dark liquid rushed down his throat. Countless bubbles burst across his tongue, and sweetness flooded every corner of his mouth instantly. Lu Ming drank non-stop for half a minute and let out a massive burp. Amazing. Incredible. The icy sensation slid down his esophagus into his stomach, clearing his head completely. This was no dream. The heavy bottle in his hands was real. The sweetness lingering on his tongue was real. He looked at the bottle. He must have drunk at least 500 milliliters. Yet the liquid level did not shift one bit. It was still full to the top. It truly was endless. Lu Ming set the Coke on the nightstand. His eyes slowly turned cold. Fate had granted him a second chance and bestowed this golden finger upon him. In this life, he would never live like a stray dog. Not just that, he would become a wolf, a predator that feasted on meat. He picked up his phone and opened the banking app. Balance 30,500 rem. 30,000 yuan. In peaceful times, that was merely a few months' salary. Not even enough to buy a bathroom in an apartment. But 1 month before the apocalypse, this amount could buy a few tons of rice or dozens of crates of canned food. It was not enough. Far from enough to live with dignity through 70 below zero. This sum was insignificant. He needed money. Huge amounts of money. Lu Ming jumped out of bed and walked over to the window. Bright sunlight streamed outside and vehicles bustled along the road below. Several elderly women chatted by the roadside carrying shopping baskets, while delivery riders weaved through traffic on electric scooters. No one could imagine that in 30 days this place would turn into hell on earth, with snow burying the ground floors of every building. All these people would end up frozen rigidized sculptures, or become meat cooking in someone else's pot. Lu Ming drew the curtains to block the glaring sunlight and glanced around the apartment. This property was inherited from his parents. 90 square meters with full renovations located in the city center. At current market rates, it could sell for 3 to 4 million yuan. In his past life, he had clung to this house as his most precious possession. Yet, once the apocalypse arrived, it became nothing more than an ice cave. The windows could not stop bullets. The walls offered no insulation, and the door could be broken down easily. Back then, he and his neighbors huddled in the stairwell, fighting brutally over a single quilt. Keeping the house was useless. Far better to sell it, exchange it for supplies, for steel plates to reinforce a safe house. Without the slightest hesitation, Lu Ming scrolled through his contacts and dialed the real estate agent he had saved ages ago. Manager Wang from Leia. Ring ring. Hello, Mr. Lu. A greasy voice crackled over the line thick with artificial professional warmth. What can I do for you? Looking to raise the rent. I should warn you the market right now. I'm not renting. Lu Ming cut him off. I want to sell the apartment. There was a 2-second pause on the other end. Then the enthusiasm and Manager Wang's voice jumped an octave. Sell. Wow. Fantastic news. The market is hot right now. Your flat's in a school district. Buyers will swarm it as long as the price is reasonable. I need the funds in hand today. Lu Ming interrupted again, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Full payment in cash or a deal that can be finalized within this week. Manager Wang was stunned. Mr. Lu, are you joking? Getting the money today. The fastest transaction process still takes at least a month. Unless what? Unless you're willing to cut the price for an urgent sale. A note of temptation crept into Manager Wang's voice. Agreed to snatch a bargain palpable even through the phone line. For an urgent sale, naturally, the price has to be discounted. How steep the discount? Lu Ming asked while picking up the Coke and taking another gulp. Well, your property is valued at roughly 3.8 million on the market. For an urgent full cash sale, the clacking of a calculator echoed on the other side. Around 3 million. If you want the deposit today, we might have to go even lower. An immediate cut of 800,000. Once Lu Ming would have screamed down the telephone line in rage. But now, a mocking smirk tugged at his lips. 3 million. In 1 month's time, 3 million would not even buy a pack of instant noodles. It would be worthless scrap paper, too rough to wipe with. If he could trade the scrap paper for a warehouse full of supplies. To 0.8 million. Lu Ming spoke without hesitation, stating the number straight into the phone. I know agents sometimes buy properties yourselves. To 0.8 million, and I need the full amount within this week. Take it or leave it. I can contact other agencies. Manager Wang's breathing grew rapid. Buying a city center school district apartment for to 0.8 million meant a million yuan profit upon resale. Was this kid out of his mind? They would be hunted by loan sharks. Well, take it. Absolutely. We can do this. Manager Wang's voice cracked with excitement. Don't look anywhere else, Mr. Lu. I'll buy it. You can come over right now. I'll get the cash ready immediately. Very well. He hung up. Lu Ming wasted no time. He spun around and rushed into the bedroom, shoving his identity card, household register, and property deed into his worn backpack. Before walking out, he glanced back at the flat, the home he had lived in for over 20 years. A framed photo of him with his parents hung on the wall, polished spotlessly clean. "Dad, Mom," Lu Ming whispered softly, "I'm letting the house go. If you're watching over me, bless your son to stock up on plenty of meat." With that, he turned off the lights and locked the door. He tossed the key lightly in his palm and made a crisp tinkling sound. Lu Ming walked downstairs and hailed a taxi. Liania Real Estate, the flagship store downtown. The driver pressed on the gas and the car emerged into the stream of traffic. Lu Ming stayed busy in the backseat, his fingers flying across his phone screen. He opened the app store and typed in the search keyword loans. Hundreds of colorful icons popped up instantly. Alipay Credit, WeChat Microloan, several formal credit services, even countless obscure underground lending platforms he had never heard of. Download all of them. Once, Lu Ming would have steered clear of these applications. The interest rates were terrifying. Borrowing from them would skin you alive. If you were overdue for even a single day, collection calls would hound you relentlessly, hurling abuse non-stop. But now he let out a cold huff. Interest rates, credit records, what were those? Could you eat them? In 1 month, banks would cease to exist. Servers would freeze solid into blocks of ice. Who would come chasing repayments? Who would carry out debt collection? Back then, the only valuable currency would be grain, antibiotics, bullets. As for yuan, nothing but scrap paper to coarse to use as toilet tissue. Ding, the software finished installing. Lu Ming opened the first one, registered, uploaded his identity card, completed facial recognition. His movements were practiced almost heartbreakingly so. "Congratulations. Your credit line has been approved. 200,000 yuan to 100,000. He tapped withdraw. Funds arrived instantly. His phone vibrated, displaying a bank balance notification. Lu Ming did not even bother checking. He opened the next app straight away. Online credit limit 50,000 yuan withdraw. Dion credit limit 180,000 yuan withdraw. Lu Ming worked like an emotionless money-making machine. He accepted funds from formal lenders and predatory loan sharks alike. Some platforms charged outrageous interest. Borrow 10,000. Receive only 7,000 with annual interest exceeding 100%. Yet Lu Ming did not blink an eye. Sign every agreement, all of them. He had no intention of paying anything back. What was the saying? Money borrowed by my own skill. Why should I repay it? In his past life, he had worked honestly, diligently paying off his mortgage. And what became of him? He starved like a stray dog, then was carved up for food. In this life, he would become the most ruthless man alive. Scenery blurred past the car windows. The sunshine was warm on his skin. A roadside billboard read, "Integrity wins the world." Lu Ming glanced at it and laughed out loud. The driver peeked at him through the rearview mirror with a strange look. The young man looked neat and handsome, yet he seemed slightly unhinged. "Son, something good happened?" the driver asked casually. Lu Ming did not lift his gaze, continuing to operate his phone. "I've struck it rich, unexpected fortune." The driver chuckled. "That's wonderful news. Hit the lottery." Something like that. Lu Ming tapped the final confirm borrow button. His phone grew faintly warm. Within the 20-minute ride, the balance in his bank account had climbed from 30,000 to 1.2 million yuan. Still not enough. Far from enough. This sum could only buy enough thick and explosion-proof steel plating to cover the bedrooms. He still needed the money from selling the apartment. "We've arrived." The driver slammed on the brakes. Lu Ming paid the fare and stepped out. It was a large real estate branch. Red banners hung above the entrance and several young men in suits stood outside smoking. Manager Wang had been waiting at the door the moment he spotted Lu Ming. The overweight agent was sweating profusely, his receding hairline glistening under the sunlight. He greeted Lu Ming as if meeting his own father. "Mr. Lu, you finally arrived." Manager Wang tossed his cigarette onto the pavement and crushed it under his shoe. Wrinkles spread across his grinning face. "The money's already inside. Let's talk indoors." "Come in." He feared Lu Ming might back out. This was an unbelievable steal. Snatching a 3.8 million school district flat for only 2.8 million. Once the contract was signed, he could resell it for 1 million yuan profit. Opportunities like this rarely appeared. Lu Ming said nothing, merely nodding and following Manager Wang into the private reception room. The air conditioning ran full blast, sending a cool chill through the room. Stacks of thick cash, bright red and eye-catching, lay on the table alongside the bank cards. "Mr. Lu, here's 500,000 in cash. Would you like to count it?" Manager Wang rubbed his hands, his eyes crinkled into slits from smiling. The remaining 2.3 million is on the cards. The transfer will go through the second you sign. We'll get the notarization done, and I'll handle all follow-up paperwork. In the old timeline, Lu Ming would have combed through every clause of the contract, scrutinizing every single word for fear of being cheated by the agent. Now, he picked up the pen, flipped straight to the last page, and scribbled his signature in one fluid motion. His speed startled Manager Wang. Mr. Lu, won't you read the terms? Unease stirred in Manager Wang's heart. This young man was far too agreeable, suspiciously so. Could there be something wrong with the flat, a death on the property, or unresolved ownership disputes? No need. Lu Ming tossed down the pen and swept the stacks of cash straight into his backpack, zipping it shut. The flat is clean. No hidden issues. I just need money urgently. He lifted his head. His dark eyes locked onto Manager Wang, sending a shiver down the agent's spine. Process the transfer. Lu Ming's voice was flat without the slightest fluctuation right away. Of course. Manager Wang dared not ask further. He quickly grabbed his payment terminal and phoned to initiate the transfer. Ding, ding. Notifications confirming incoming funds chimed one after another. Combined with the loans he had taken out earlier, Lu Ming now held nearly 4 million yuan per million. In the apocalypse, this amount equated to a granary and impenetrable fortress. Lu Ming stood up and slung the heavy backpack over his shoulders. The weight pressing against him filled him with immense security. Take care, Mr. Lu. Come to me if you have deals like this in future. Manager Wang bowed and scraped, seeing him all the way to the doorway. Only after Lu Ming's figure vanished into the crowd did Manager Wang spit on the ground. Spoiled fool, he stroked the still warm property deed in his hand, grinning from ear to ear. Idiot. Rushing to throw his money away, gambling addicts always get what's coming to them. Lu Ming walked along the street. The midday sun blazed hot, burning his scalp. He found a shaded spot and took a sip from the endless Coke bottle. Ice cold. Pure bliss. Just then his phone vibrated. A WeChat notification popped up in the group chat of the company that had cast him aside. At every one finance notice, monthly salaries will be delayed. Please understand the company's difficulties. Also, mandatory overtime for all staff this weekend. No leave permitted for anyone. Immediately after, the bald boss specifically tagged Lu Ming at Lu Ming. Where's this month's report? You want to quit? Get back here to work overtime at once. Young people these days lack any willingness to endure hardship. Lu Ming stared at the screen. And your hardship. The hardships I survived in my past life outnumber the grains of salt you've eaten. His finger tapped the screen once. Lu Ming, get lost, sent. Silence crashed over the group instantly as if every person had been choked. Mute, dead quiet. Seconds later, the chat exploded. Boss Lu Ming. Have you lost your mind? Say that again, boss. Believe me, I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. Lu Ming wasted no extra words. He muted notifications for the group and blocked the boss. All done in one smooth sequence. It felt incredible. Is this what it feels like to no longer be a wage slave? He used to tread carefully, terrified of losing his job. But now, who do you think you are? In a month's time, you'll either freeze to death or become a beggar pleading for a biscuit. The reason he hadn't created a group chat was simply Lu Ming's twisted amusement. He wanted to watch what became of these good colleagues once the doomsday arrived, especially that rotten boss. He just finished dealing with his boss when his WeChat pinged. It was a familiar profile picture, a heavily retouched selfie featuring big eyes, a pointed chin, and half-exposed cleavage. Lin Xian, the same woman who'd gotten him killed in his past life, yet still had the gall to say, "Why are you so selfish?" Lin Xian, brother Lu Ming, where are you? I saw you head out. Grab me a Starbucks latte on your way back. Hot, half sugar. Also, get a bagel from that popular shop downstairs, the cranberry one. Hurry up, okay? I skipped breakfast and my stomach hurts. Her tone was practiced and casual, as if Lu Ming was her personal delivery man. The old Lu Ming would have rushed out to queue up the second he saw messages like these, anxious that the food would turn cold by the time he brought it over. Then he'd watch her take the items, shut the door without a single word of thanks. Lu Ming stared at the lines on his screen. Stomach hurts. Wait until you're so starved you're gnawing on tree bark. Then you'll know real stomach pain. He typed 2 words into the chat box. Not free. She clearly never expected such a reply. Lin Xian, Lu Ming, what's your problem? All I asked was for you to bring breakfast. Why are you being so petty? I can't believe this. Men like you deserve to stay single. Lu Ming let out a cold snort and muted his phone. Petty? When you're on your knees begging me for a sip of hot pot broth, you'll find out just how generous I can be. He stuffed his phone back into his pocket and pushed troubles out of mind. Time was life now. Every wasted second was a slow suicide. He had the money. Next step was turning it into tangible supplies. But his apartment was far too small, and stockpiling goods in the residential complex would draw too much attention. Tons of rice, dozens of cartons of canned food. Hauling all of that upstairs would definitely catch the eye of the security captain Zhang Chong. The end of the world hadn't arrived yet. He couldn't expose himself. He needed a warehouse, something large, remote, and out of sight. Lu Ming waved down a taxi. West City, Xian Logistics Park. It sat on the edge of the old town, filled with abandoned factories and warehouses. Hardly anyone passed through. It was the perfect spot for what he planned to do. Lu Ming patted the phone in his pocket. The mystery box app sat quietly inside. At midnight tonight, he could open another box. Hopefully, he'd get something powerful. Lu Ming licked his lips, a flicker of greed flashing in his eyes. Shanfeng Logistics Park was nothing more than a cluster of unfinished factory buildings. Weeds grew waist-high everywhere, and stray dogs rooted through piles of garbage. No surveillance cameras, no security guards, not a soul in sight. It was tailor-made for stockpiling supplies before doomsday. Lu Ming stood there and nodded in satisfaction. Sir, don't you think this place is a bit run down? The rental agent, a scrawny man, looked awkward. It's spacious, but the water and power supply are unreliable. Usually only people storing contraband dare come here. I'll take it. Lu Ming cut him off, pointing toward the large red brick warehouse at the far end. He said that one. I want it for a month. The scrawny man froze. Huh? 1 month. Our minimum lease term is half a year. I'll pay extra. Lu Ming pulled a thick stack of cash. He drew roughly 10,000 yuan from his backpack and pressed it into the agent's arms. No formal contract needed. Hand over the keys and you can leave. This covers the deposit and rent. Is it enough? The agent's eyes went wide with shock. Rent for this ramshackle warehouse topped out at only 2,000 yuan a month. More than enough. You're incredibly generous, sir. Afraid Lu Ming might change his mind. He thrust the keys into Lu Ming's hand, counted the cash, and hurried away. Lu Ming took the rusty key to the heavy iron gate and unlocked the warehouse creak. The massive metal door scraped open with a shrill screech. The interior was empty, spanning around 1,000 square meters with concrete floors and a high roof. It was a little drafty, but that didn't matter. This was only a transfer station. Lu Ming didn't intend to store supplies here permanently. He planned to use it as a black hole. Once goods were brought inside and the door closed, the space would be his domain. With the warehouse secured, Lu Ming set off immediately for the city's largest agricultural wholesale market. That was where the real operation began. The South City agricultural wholesale market buzzed with haggling voices, and the rumble of trucks unloading cargo. The air reeked of raw produce and spices. Once Lu Ming had found the smell stifling. Now it smelled wonderful. It was the scent of survival. He walked straight to a stall marked General Grain Oil Distributor. The owner, a bald man, sat smoking. He was playing cards when Lu Ming rapped on the counter. Boss, I want to buy rice. Without lifting his head, the bald man said, that pile over there is loose stock. 5 yuan on a kilograms. Help yourself. I don't want loose rice. I need premium Wuchang rice. Also, Wadeli flour and Jinlongji cooking oil. Annoyed, the bald man tossed down his cards. How much do you want? A few sacks. I'm busy here. 50 tons of rice. Lu Ming held up 5 fingers. 50 tons of flour, 2,000 barrels of oil. Silence fell. The cigarette slipped from the bald man's mouth, burning his thigh. He yelped and jumped to his feet. The other man playing cards stared at Lu Ming as if he'd lost his mind. Young man, are you messing with me? The bald man picked up his cigarette, but with a dark expression. 50 tons. Give any idea how much that is? Several full trucks couldn't haul it all. Even if you own a restaurant, you couldn't use this much. Are you taking the order or not? Tired of idle talk, Lu Ming unzipped his backpack, revealing stacks of cash inside. Cash on hand. Deliver everything to Shanfeng Logistics Park. Final payment once. Unloading finishes. He pulled out 2 wads of cash as the deposit. At the sight of the money, the bald man's expression transformed instantly, turning from stern to beaming. Wow, sir. Please take a seat. He shoved the shop assistant aside, grinning from ear to ear. You're launching a huge business. I didn't recognize an important client. I'll arrange the goods right away. I can get 500 tons if you need it, not just 50. Deliver as much as you can before tonight. Lu Ming checked the time. I also need pork, beef, and seasonings. Who's the biggest supplier here? Right away, follow me. The bald man now treated Lu Ming like a god of fortune and hurried ahead to lead the way. Over the next 2 hours, word spread across the wholesale market. A madman had arrived, buying everything in sight: pork, whole hogs, 500 heads. Only those slaughtered today. Salt 5 tons. I want sugar, too. Pickled mustard tuber. Leon mock chili sauce. Clear out your entire inventory. Lu Ming was a heartless bulk buyer. Anything edible and storable, he purchased. Shop owners counted cash until their hands ached, gazing at Lu Ming with awe. Could this guy be rolling in wealth? Some even wondered if war was coming. But glancing up at the blazing sun, they dismissed the thought. Whatever. A fool turns down easy money. 10 p.m. Shanfeng Logistics Park. The once desolate warehouse zone blazed with lights. Dozens of heavy trucks lined up in a long queue. Back up. Keep reversing. Unload. Move faster. Sweaty laborers hauled sacks of rice and cartons of king goods into the warehouse. Lu Ming sat on a broken chair by the warehouse entrance, sipping an icy cola and watching the scene unfold. This feeling, watching supplies pile higher and higher, was more thrilling than anything. Sir, this is the last truckload. The bald shop owner ran over. Drenched in sweat, he offered Lu Ming a Chinese cigarette. Want to check the stock? Lu Ming glanced into the warehouse. The empty 2,000 square meter space was now half filled. Mountainous heaps of rice rose up alongside rows of hanging pork strewn with white fat. It was a reassuring sight. No need to check. Lu Ming took the cigarette and tucked it behind his ear without lighting it. The final payment has been transferred. Excellent. You're such a straightforward customer. The bald man checked his phone, unable to stop smiling. It was already past midnight by the time he sent the truck convoy away. Noise faded, leaving Lu Ming alone amid mountains of supplies. Cold wind slipped through the door cracks, yet he felt no chill. His blood burned with excitement. He checked his phone. Midnight on the screen. The icon for the Doomsday Mystery Box lit up once more. Lu Ming took a deep breath. Yesterday had been the new player bonus, granting him unlimited cola. Today marked day 2. According to the rules, small rewards were given Monday through Saturday. They were small rewards, but anything from the system was guaranteed to be top tier. Open. Lu Ming tapped the icon. A flash of light appeared and a heavy cardboard box materialized on top of a sack of rice. At his feet. Congratulations, you have obtained military warm patches. The crate contained 500 pieces, used by special forces. One patch generates constant heat at 55 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. Even if you run naked in Antarctica, covering your body with these will leave you sweating. Lu Ming opened the crate and took out one patch. He tore open the packaging and warmth seeped out within 3 seconds. Blazing fast, these patches would mean life or death in the apocalypse. Many people would freeze to death, holding hundreds of thousands in cash. Unable to buy a single one, Lu Ming stowed them away contentedly. For the next 2 days, Lu Ming worked tirelessly like a spinning top. He received shipments by day and guarded the warehouse by night. The mystery box on the 3rd day rewarded him with a high-powered tactical flashlight. Its beam reached 1 kilometer. It could be swung as a blunt weapon, and it featured a strobe function capable of blinding enemies instantly. Lu Ming tested it. Shining it against the wall nearly blinded him, proving a direct shot would leave anyone rolling on the ground. Time flew by and soon it was November 5th, Sunday. Lu Ming woke extremely early, or rather, he hadn't slept all night. He sat atop the tallest stack of flour sacks in the warehouse, eyes locked on the time displayed on his phone. 23 hours 59 minutes and 58 seconds. 23 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds midnight. The numbers flipped. It was Sunday. Per system rules. Sunday mystery boxes granted intermediate rewards. If small rewards yielded life-saving gear, like the warm patches, what would an intermediate reward bring? A gun, an armored vehicle, or something else? Lu Ming did not hesitate. He tapped the long, awaited icon without delay. At the same time, he squeezed his eyes shut, silently praying to the Supreme Lord Laozi, Guanin, Bodhisattva, Jesus, Confucius, and even Satan, begging for a great reward. As the icon activated, a dazzling burst of purple light erupted. The glow nearly blinded Lu Ming. Intermediate rewards no longer emitted cheap white light. Midnight arrived, and the Sunday mystery box ignited with a deep purple glow instead of the usual white flash. Lu Ming understood the difference immediately. Because Sunday promised an intermediate reward far beyond ordinary survival tools, he silently prayed to every god he could remember, caring only that the next item could change his chances. The purple light collapsed into his palm, leaving behind a plain black ring without carvings, jewels, or visible mechanisms. Its surface felt colder and smoother than metal. While the system finally revealed what looked like an impossible description, the reward was a subspace ring with 100,000 cubic meters of storage. Time stopped completely inside, preserving anything placed there without decay, heat loss, freezing, or contamination. The only restriction was simple: no living creature could enter. Lu Ming nearly dropped the ring as the meaning hit him. Food could remain fresh forever, cooked meals could stay steaming, and medicine would never expire. Even fuel, water, batteries, and fragile equipment could disappear from the physical world whenever danger approached. He slipped the ring onto his index finger, and it adjusted perfectly as though it had always belonged there. Then Lu Ming faced the warehouse packed with rice, flour, meat, oil, and canned food. One thought activated the ring. The towering wall of rice vanished without sound. Bare concrete appeared beneath it, leaving several cockroaches scrambling through dust where a mountain had stood. Lu Ming stared for one breath, then turned toward the flour and fresh pork. Another command erased both piles instantly. Barrels of cooking oil disappeared next, followed by seasonings, canned food, and every unopened carton. Within moments, the crowded warehouse became an echoing empty shell. Inside Lu Ming's consciousness, the supplies floated within a vast gray space arranged exactly as he desired. A droplet of blood hung motionless beneath the pork, proving that time truly had stopped. That single frozen droplet confirmed more than any system explanation could. A roasted duck stored at peak heat could emerge unchanged 10,000 years later. Ice cream would never melt, medicine would never weaken, and fresh meat would never rot. For an apocalypse survivor, this was not convenient storage. It was control over scarcity itself. Lu Ming laughed until the empty warehouse threw his voice back from every wall. In his first life, people murdered one another over crumbs. Now he could carry a private world of supplies on one finger. The ring could also become invisible, preventing thieves from realizing where his wealth had gone. That meant the warehouse no longer needed to protect anything. It would serve only as a delivery point where trucks entered full and departed without understanding what happened. Lu Ming examined the untouched floor and realized the entire city had effectively become his supply yard. As long as nobody watched, anything he purchased could vanish into storage before attracting attention. His earlier stockpile had seemed enormous, but the ring exposed how small it truly was. 100,000 cubic meters demanded fuel, generators, water, medicine, tools, weapons, clothing, and countless prepared meals. Greed flashed through Lu Ming's eyes. But this greed came from remembering starvation rather than chasing luxury. Every empty section of the ring represented a future day when hunger might return. He refused to leave even one useful corner vacant. Before departing, Lu Ming scattered empty boxes and created tire marks to suggest an overnight transport convoy. Anyone investigating would assume creditors or smugglers had removed the merchandise. No rational person would imagine thousands of tons resting inside a ring. Lu Ming paid the rental agent to watch the property and asked no questions. The greedy man accepted immediately, never realizing the warehouse had already become nothing more than a stage. With food secured, Lu Ming identified the next weakness in his preparations. Generators, vehicles, heating systems, and heavy machinery were useless without fuel. He closed the empty warehouse and felt the black ring resting invisibly against his finger. Then Lu Ming drove toward the city outskirts, ready to turn cash into the energy that would keep his fortress alive. Fuel in the apocalypse. Lacking fuel meant certain death. Generators, vehicles, heating, all required it. Lu Ming climbed into his van. He headed for a private gas station on the city outskirts catering to large trucks. The owner had loose connections and would sell anything for the right price. Fill the tank. Lu Ming tossed a pack of cigarettes to the attendant who leaned in mysteriously. Hey man, want some barrel fuel? Inspections have been tight lately, but I've got stock hidden away exactly what I need. How much do you have? Lu Ming rolled down the window. Cold wind rushing into the cab. 2 tons, but large iron drums. Hard to transport. I'll take all of it. Lu Ming got out of the van and followed the attendant to the backyard. Behind piles of junk sat more than a dozen iron barrels full of diesel. The sharp fumes hung heavy in the air. To Lu Ming, it was the scent of safety. The money's transferred. Lu Ming pulled out his phone, scanning and paying in one fluid motion. While the attendant turned to fetch a receipt, Lu Ming waved his hand. Whoosh, 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 all the diesel barrels vanished, leaving only indentations in the mud. When the attendant returned, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. The barrels? Where are the barrels? They've been hauled away. Lu Ming nodded toward the road. I have a transport fleet. The attendant scratched his head in confusion. Had a truck pulled up? Maybe he hadn't heard it. Ignoring him, Lu Ming slammed on the gas. Time to leave. He could only pull off a trick like this once. Repeating it would attract suspicion. Now that he had the subspace ring, he had to fill its 100,000 cubic meters of space. Besides fuel, he needed generators to silent Yamaha models, high-capacity storage batteries, and coal, smokeless coal, slow burning with high calorific value. Lu Ming drove all over the area, stopping at every hardware shop and supermarket he passed. Buy relentlessly. Whenever the van was full, he stored the goods inside the ring when nobody watched. He was like an insatiable glutton, taking everything in, letting nothing out. He kept busy until the afternoon when hunger struck. Up ahead stood a large shopping mall with an expensive imported supermarket on the underground floor. Oh, the old Lu Ming had never dared step foot inside. A single bunch of grapes cost hundreds, daylight robbery. But now it was his personal cafeteria. Lu Ming grabbed a shopping trolley and headed straight for the fresh produce section. Grade 9 tomahawk steak, 1,800 yuan each. He grabbed 10 live king crabs bubbling in the tank. The ring could not hold living creatures, so he would have it slaughtered. Kill this largest one and cut it into chunks, Lu Ming told the staff. The shop assistant eyed the plainly dressed young man with disdain. Sir, this crab cost over 3,000. Are you certain? Kill it. Tired of arguing, Lu Ming pulled out his phone and showed the assistant his account balance. The assistant fell silent. The cut crab meat was placed in elegant packaging. Lu Ming pretended to put the box into his backpack, but it vanished straight into the ring. He picked up several bottles of mutai, cartons of Chunwa cigarettes, and pricey Evian, and mineral water. He pushed the overflowing trolley toward the checkout counter. Card swiped. Insufficient balance. Lu Ming calmly pulled out another card. It was a credit card anyway. Max it out. Who cares? By the time he walked out loaded with bags, dusk had fallen. Street lights flickered on, casting a dim yellow glow. The street bustled with people. Couples walked hand in hand. Children wailed. Everything looked peaceful. As Lu Ming watched them, his gaze was as cold as if he were staring at livestock waiting for slaughter. In 25 days, half of these people would freeze to death. The other half would stab one another just to snatch the box of beef he held. Huh? Lu Ming let out a cold snort and turned toward the parking lot. Just then, a voice called out from behind him. Lu Ming. The voice was hauntingly familiar. Lu Ming's back tensed instantly, as if a venomous snake had fixed its gaze on him. He halted and slowly turned around. Leaning out from behind a nearby pillar stood a man wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a white shirt, the very image of a hypocritical intellectual. Su Fei, the bastard who had smiled and handed him poison wine in his past life, then picked up knife and fork and said, Brother, lend me some of your flesh. Lu Ming slipped his hand into his pocket, ready to pull a tactical flashlight out of his spatial storage at any moment, to blind the son of a what a coincidence. Su Fei walked over with a grin, his eyes sweeping over the bulging bags in Lu Ming's hands. That look, greedy, vicious, exactly the same as it had been in the previous life. Struck it rich, Su Fei adjusted his glasses to hide the glint in his eyes. Buying all these nice things and not calling your buddy. What's this? You get rich and forget your old friend. Su Fei stretched out his hand, aiming to clap Lu Ming on the shoulder. His fingers were long and well-defined. Lu Ming remembered all too clearly. This was the hand that wielded the ba knife, slicing chunks of flesh from his thigh little by little. Su Fei had been smiling the whole time, cutting away as he spoke. Don't blame me, Minji. I'm starving, too. The searing agony, the utter despair, Lu Ming instinctively stepped back, evading the hand. Su Fei's arm hung suspended in midair. Awkward. He pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses to mask the malice flashing in his eyes. Yet that revolting fake smile never left his face. Lu Ming, what's wrong with you? We haven't seen each other for a few days, and you're acting so distant. Su Fei sized up Lu Ming's cheap street clothes, then glanced at the luxury shopping bags. His Adam's apple bobbed. Nothing. Lu Ming's voice turned icy. What do you want? If murder weren't illegal, if he didn't fear being arrested and derailing his plans right now, he would blind Su Fei first, then drive a dagger into his throat, draining every drop of his blood. Nothing major. Su Fei rubbed his hands together, putting on a troubled expression. I've been a little strapped for cash lately. You know, I just switched jobs and rent went up. Seeing all these supplies you bought, you must be doing pretty well, right? Here it comes. He wanted to borrow money. It was the exact same excuse as last time. Foolish Lu Ming had lent him 30,000 back then, the money he had set aside for his mortgage. And what happened? When the apocalypse hit, Su Fei used that cash to hoard supplies. Later, he brought men to rob Lu Ming's meager stock of food. How much do you need? Lu Ming looked at him, a mocking smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Su Fei's eyes lit up. It worked. This fool was still so easy to manipulate. Not much. Just 30,000. I'll pay you back the second I get my paycheck next month with interest. Su Fei held up 3 fingers, vowing earnestly. Pay him back with ghost money. Lu Ming laughed. He set the bags on the ground, freed his hand, and slipped it into his trousers, fingers wrapping around the cool high-power flashlight. Sufei. Lu Ming called his name. Yeah, I'm here, brother. Get lost. One word, short and final. The smile froze rigidly on Sufei's face like a video pause mid-frame. He wondered if he had misheard. Lu Ming, what did you say? I said, get lost. Lu Ming took a step forward. Less than half a meter separated them. He stared straight into Sufei's eyes. There was no warmth in his gaze, only the indifference of someone watching a corpse, edged with the tang of bloodlust. I have no money. Even if I did, I'd feed it to dogs before lending it to you. Lu Ming did not raise his voice. Yet, Sufei shuddered under that stare. He had never seen Lu Ming like this. The old Lu Ming was honest and timid. He would only grin awkwardly when taken advantage of. But the man standing before him now looked like a starving wolf fresh off a kill. A chill shot from the soles of Sufei's feet straight to the top of his head. He stumbled backward to paces, nearly tripping over the pillar behind him. You've lost your mind. Furious embarrassment turned Sufei's face beet red. If you won't lend me money, fine. But don't insult me. What terrible manners. You deserve to stay poor your whole life. After shouting, he spun around and hurried away. His gait panicked as if ghosts chased him. Lu Ming stood watching Sufei. He did not give chase, nor did anger rise in him. He only found it ridiculous. Run. Lu Ming muttered quietly. Eat well, fatten up. Next month, I will come personally to collect the debt. It was a blood debt to be repaid with his life. Lu Ming picked up his bags and walked to his beat-up Jinbai van. Climbing inside, he pulled out his phone. He found Sufei in his WeChat contact list, tapped his profile picture, deleted the friend connection, and blocked him. He also blacklisted Sufei's phone number. Peace at last. Every word from this man was enough to dirty his ears. Still, the pest had soured his mood. How to shake off the irritation, spend money, stockpile supplies. Only watching his storage space fill with goods could calm the killing urge burning inside him. Lu Ming started the engine. His next destination, the city's most famous Peking duck restaurant, Quanjude. He did not want those shoddy vacuum-packed versions. He wanted fresh roasted ones straight out of the oven, redolent of fruit with smoke. The van sped along and pulled up outside the restaurant. It was dinner rush. Voices echoed inside, and the rich aroma of rendered duck fat drifted down the street. Lu Ming took a deep breath. His stomach rumbled. For 3 years in the apocalypse, he had survived on tree bark and rock-hard frozen rat meat. The scent was pure temptation. Boss Lu Ming walked inside and slapped a bank card on the counter. I want Peking duck. The front desk girl blinked. Sir, how many of you are dining? We have no private rooms left. No din. Take away. Lu Ming glanced at the rows of golden red ducks hanging in the open kitchen. How many ducks do you roast per batch? Around 50. I'll take all of them, Lu Ming said flatly. What? The girl stared in shock, certain she had misheard. All of them. Are you arranging a company team dinner, sir? Cut the chatter. Swipe the card. Lu Ming had no desire to explain. I'll also buy the next batch and the one after that. I want every duck you roast tonight. He requested double portions of lotus leaf pancakes, sweet bean sauce, and shredded green onions. The manager was alerted and rushed out. Once he confirmed the payment went through, his face split into a wide grin. Hurry. Turn up the ovens. Get every chef working. After giving out orders, the manager personally poured tea. Lu Ming left it untouched. He sat watching the chefs carve the ducks, their knife skills impeccable. Each slice bearing both skin and meat, steaming hot. Box after box was packed. Stacks of takeout bags piling up like a hill. Sir, shall we carry these to your vehicle? The manager asked eagerly. No, I'll handle it. Lu Ming hauled dozens of sacks of duck out to the van in several trips. Once the doors closed and he confirmed no one was nearby, he whispered, store. With a thought, hundreds of steaming boxes of Peking duck on the back seat vanished into his spatial ring. Time stood still inside the storage space. The ducks would forever remain as crisp and hot as the moment they left the oven. When temperatures plummeted to minus 70 degrees Celsius outside and others gnawed on ice chunks, he would shelter in his warm, safe house, wrapping tender roast duck in pancakes, biting into juicy meat. Just imagining it thrilled him. Still, duck alone was too greasy. He needed something to go with alcohol. Lu Ming drove west to a century-old braised meat shop, Wang's Marinated Delicacies. Their pork head meat was legendary, rich yet not cloying, lean yet never dry. They also sold beef, trotters, and intestines. Boss, 1,000 kilograms of pork head meat, 500 kilograms of marinated beef, and all your pork intestines. Lu Ming swept through the shop like a raider, leaving nothing behind. All the glossy braised meats hanging on hooks entered his storage. He even bought the barrels of braising sauce. Cook noodles with this broth, and it would be a feast fit for immortals. That night, Lu Ming crisscrossed most of the city. Kentucky Fried Chicken family buckets, McDonald's Big Macs, Pizza Hut pies, street stall grilled cold noodles, savory pancakes, stinky tofu, any hot edible food. He bought it all. This wild spending slowly soothed the rage simmering inside him. He gazed at the dedicated cooked food zone in his spatial ring. Rows upon rows of steaming delicacies. This was happiness, the most tangible kind of happiness. He kept working until the early hours before returning to his empty house. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, inside a shabby rental unit, Sufei sat on the curb, twisting open a cheap bottle of beer and taking a harsh gulp. He spat onto the pavement, his eyes glinting with malice. His phone screen lit up, showing a chat with Zhang Chong. Zhang Chong was the security captain of Lu Ming's residential complex, a reckless ruffian. Sufei. Brother Chong, something's up. That kid Lu Ming has lost his mind. Looks like he struck it rich. Zhang Chong struck rich. That coward. How Sufei, it's true. I saw him today. He drives a beat-up Jinbai, but he bought luxury goods. Wagyu beef, Matai, king crab. Tens of thousands worth. And the guy feels weird now. Zhang Chong, weird how Sufei, there's something off about his stare, like he's killed people. He added that Lu Ming blocked him and wouldn't lend cash, acting all arrogant. Zhang Chong slouched in the security booth, crossed his legs, and sneered at the message. Zhang Chong Hao is struck rich. Perfect timing. I'm short on cash lately. I'll go pay him a visit in a couple days. Sufei, Brother Chong, take me with you. That kid's far too cocky. We need to teach him a lesson. Zhang Chong, don't worry. You'll get your cut. Sufei stared at the text, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Keep being arrogant, Lu Ming. Wait until Brother Chong shows up. The next morning, blinding sunlight streamed in. Lu Ming stood in the living room on bare concrete flooring. All furniture had been sold. Those mahogany sofas and leather beds were hauled away by a scrap dealer days earlier, for a few thousand yuan. The place now looked like an unfinished rough apartment. The property deed was no longer in Lu Ming's possession either. Manager Wang from Liania was probably dreaming about the house right now. When signing the sales contract, Lu Ming had added a special clause. A 2-month rent-back agreement, rent deducted from the house payment. The overweight manager, Wang, had agreed instantly. In his eyes, Lu Ming was just a spendthrift desperate to cash out and pay off debts. 2 months. He could wait 2 months and 1 day if needed. Once the title transferred, flipping the house would net him over 1 million yuan in profit. Huh? Lu Ming took a sip of iced cola and smiled coldly. In 2 months, that fat man would be frozen solid. He wouldn't care about the house anymore. Legally, the house belonged to Manager Wang now. But in reality, Lu Ming held the keys. He held the right to occupy the property. This territory was his, and territory needed fortification. Heavy fortification. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Lu Ming set down the cola and walked over to open the door. A middle-aged man in a tailored black suit stood at the threshold, hair perfectly combed. 2 assistants carrying measuring equipment followed behind him. Black Shield Security, the top-tier security firm in the country. They were long tasked with protecting wealthy elites and dignitaries. Word had it that with enough money, they could turn your bedroom into a vault. Mr. Lu. The man glanced at Lu Ming, surprise flickering across his face. Far too young and dressed so plainly, hardly someone who could afford exorbitant security fees. That's me. Lu Ming stepped aside. Come in. The man was Li Gang, a senior consultant with Black Shield. He walked inside and eyed the empty bare unit, furrowing his brows. Yet professional restraint kept him silent. Mr. Lu, you mentioned over the phone you want full house reinforcement. Li Gang pulled out a tablet. Here are our service packages. Tier A offers anti-theft and anti-prime protection. Tier B is bulletproof and blast resistant. Tier C is no need to show me. Lu Ming cut him off. He walked to the wall and tapped the thin plasterboard. I want a fully custom build. I don't mean any offense, but your Tier C package. Lu Ming turned to face Li Gang. Tone calm as garbage. Li Gang's expression soured. Mr. Lu Tier can withstand regular hand grenades. The threat I'm guarding against isn't grenades. Lu Ming locked eyes with him. It's the apocalypse. Li Gang froze. Is this man insane? Ignoring his stunned reaction, Lu Ming held up one finger. First, reinforce all 6 surfaces of the unit. Every wall, floor, and ceiling must be lined with 20 centimeters thick alloy steel plates. Solid welded panels. 0 gaps, 20 centimeters. Li Gang nearly dropped his tablet in shock. Mr. Lu, you realize how heavy that is? The floor slabs will collapse. They won't, Lu Ming said evenly. This building uses a frame structure. I've had load-bearing calculations done. It can hold it. Truth be told, he had not run any calculations. If it collapsed, so be it. The whole world would be encased in ice soon anyway. Second, Lu Ming gestured toward the huge floor-to-ceiling window frame. I want bulletproof glass, not cheap stuff that only stops pistols. It needs to withstand continuous fire from a Barrett sniper rifle. Double-layered vacuum sealed in between, plus one-way privacy film. Li Gang wiped sweat from his forehead. A lunatic. Definitely a lunatic or some mafia heir fleeing enemies. Third, ventilation. Lu Ming nodded toward the ceiling. Install an independent air circulation system fitted with top-tier nuclear, biological, and chemical filtration. Even if poison gas fills the outside air, I should be able to smoke indoors without catching a whiff of it. Li Gang listened, dumbfounded. This was not renovating an apartment. This was constructing a bunker, nuclear war grade. Mr. Lu. Li Gang swallowed, his throat dry. The scale of construction and material cost. This will be an astronomical sum. Besides, modifications this extensive will raise issues with property management. I will handle the property office. Lu Ming interrupted. Just give me your quotation. Li Gang took a deep breath and tapped furiously on his tablet to run estimates. 2 minutes later, he lifted his head, studying Lu Ming with complicated eyes. Mr. Lu, rough calculation puts materials and labor at a minimum 8 million yuan, and the fastest construction timeline is 1 month. 8 million yuan was enough to buy the villas in this third-tier city. Spending 8 million renovating a 90-square-meter-old apartment. Madness. 8 million. Lu Ming smiled. I'll give you 10 million. He tossed his worn backpack onto the table. Crash. The zipper split open, revealing stacks of bright red cash. Roughly 500,000 yuan he had yet to deposit at the bank. Li Gang's eyes widened. Cold hard cash packed a far stronger visual impact than any bank transfer screenshot. This is the deposit. Lu Ming pulled out one stack and tapped it in his palm. The rest will be settled within a month. Only one condition. Lu Ming raised a single finger. Finish everything in 7 days. The extra 2 million is overtime pay for your crew. We have a deal. Silence hung in the air. Li Gang stared at the cash, then back at Lu Ming's pitch-black, intimidating eyes. 7 days meant round-the-clock shifts, but 2 million in overtime pay. Money made the world turn. It could move mountains. Well, do it. Li Gang gritted his teeth, excitement flaring in his eyes. You have my word, Mr. Lu. I'll mobilize manpower, bring in our most skilled workers. 3 rotating shifts. If the money's guaranteed, I can wrap it up in 5 days if I have to. Good. Lu Ming pushed the backpack forward. Let's sign the contract. After seeing Li Gang off, silence settled over the house once more. Lu Ming leaned against the wall and let out a long breath. It's done. My biggest worry is finally going to be dealt with once this tortoiseshell bunker is finished. Not to mention Su Fei and Zhang Chong. Even the military would have to bombard it for ages to break through. As for that 10 million he promised, complete nonsense. Where is he going to get that kind of money? Once the doomsday arrives, he can go beg heaven for it. He glanced down at his phone. The mystery box was available again. He'd been so busy stockpiling supplies these days. He'd nearly forgotten all about it. Hope I get something good. Lu Ming tapped the familiar black icon. In an instant, a flash of light burst forth. It wasn't purple. It was blue. A fine tier item. Congratulations on obtaining full-set Polar Special Operations Suit. Description: crafted from nano-constant temperature material. Lightweight, breathable, and stab-resistant. Built-in miniature thermonuclear battery with active heating function. Extreme cold resistance. 80 degrees Celsius. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Clothing. And it generates heat actively. This is priceless. In his past life, he'd wrapped himself in 3 down jackets, yet still froze stiff. Barely able to move an inch. If you wore too many layers, you couldn't run when danger struck. But this suit, Lu Ming focused his thoughts, and the black uniform materialized in his hands. The fabric felt strange, cool to the touch, like silk yet reminiscent of metal. It was incredibly light. The full set, including boots, weighed roughly only 1 kilogram. Let me try it on. Lu Ming pulled off his t-shirt right away and slipped into the operation suit. The garment clung to his body automatically like a second skin wrapping tightly around his muscles, without feeling constricting in the slightest. The next moment, a warm current surged from the suit and spread across his entire body in an instant. It wasn't an overbearing swelter, but gentle, perfectly balanced warmth. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. With this suit, he could roll around in snow without fear from now on. What's more, It was black with the hood boasting a sleek design. Wearing it, he would look every inch a nocturnal assassin. Lu Ming stepped in front of a mirror. The man reflected stared back with icy eyes. Not bad, Lu Ming nodded in satisfaction. This was the look someone ought to have for the end of the world. In the afternoon, after heading out to stock up on more goods, Lu Ming drove back to his residential complex. He needed to retrieve some belongings and see what those lovely neighbors were up to. As soon as he parked his beat-up Jinbai van at the complex gate, he spotted a crowd gathered noisily outside the gatehouse. Mountains of delivery parcels lay piled on the ground. A woman wearing a pink miniskirt stood there holding her phone and shouting orders. Hey, be careful. That's my new cosmetics. Don't stack boxes on that one. It's a limited edition handbag. Her voice was shrill, laced with an irritating air of petulance. Xian Lu Ming frowned. What rotten luck running into her here. He planned to drive straight past, but the parcels blocked the only path. Lu Ming honked the horn. Beep. The sharp honk startled Xian. She spun around, her brows furrowed with irritation. Who's that? Have you no manners? Why are you honking? When she saw Lu Ming's battered Jinbai van, she rolled her eyes sky high. I wondered who it was. Lynch folded her arms and strode over in high heels. Lu Ming, are you blind? Can't you see all these goods stacked here? Lu Ming rolled down the window and stared coldly at her. Move aside. Oh, you've got quite the temper after a few days apart. Xian let out an angry laugh. You want me to move? Do you have any idea how much all this cost? Could you afford it if anything gets damaged? She gestured toward the piles of boxes. My 11 orders just arrived. I'm stuck trying to carry them upstairs alone. Linshan's eyes swiveled and her tone suddenly turned sugary soft. Hey, brother Lu Ming, could you help me carry these? I'm wearing heels. I honestly can't lift them. And there are several bulky packages. You're so strong. The same old trick. Coterie and simping. Lu Ming used to fall for it every time. The moment she called him brother Lu Ming, he turned putty in her hands and rushed over to work like a mule. But not anymore. Staring at her foundation cake face, Lu Ming only felt revulsion. The apocalypse was nearly here. Yet she was still buying handbags and cosmetics. Had she lost her mind? Of course, she had no idea disaster was coming. She thought life would go on forever. Live streaming to charm men and play the goddess. Still, Lu Ming had no intention of warning her. Since he couldn't drive through, he parked the van and walked straight toward her. Watching Lu Ming march over with no intention of stopping to help, Xian froze. She instinctively reached out to grab his sleeve. Brother Lu Ming, did you not hear me? Her voice held a mixture of hurt and disbelief. Where was the Lu Ming who used to drop everything for her? Lu Ming dodged sideways, moving as nimbly as an eel. Xian's hand closed on thin air. Her stiletto twisted under her, and she nearly crashed face first onto the pavement. Ow. She clutched her knee, tears welling up in her eyes from the pain. The scene was witnessed by Aunt Lu, who had just returned with groceries. She was the neighborhood's notorious gossip, always quick to climb onto a moral high horse. At the sight, she slammed her wilted vegetables onto the ground. Well, if it isn't young Lu planted herself firmly in the path, her bulk jiggling. What's wrong with you? Boy, can't you see the girl fell? Won't you lend her a hand? And look, Xian has so many deliveries. We're all neighbors. What's the harm in pitching in? Young people these days have no warmth. Cold-blooded, Aunt Lu sprayed spittle everywhere as she ran it, splattering Lu Ming's face. Emboldened by having someone back her up, Xian rubbed her ankle and gazed tearfully at Lu Ming, looking utterly pitiful. Aunt Lu, don't blame brother Lu Ming. He's probably just in a bad mood. Her manipulative act was masterful. In his past life, Lu Ming would have been overwhelmed with guilt by now, ready to punish himself and obediently carry all the parcels. But now, looking at the pair of drama queens, one old and one young, Lu Ming's stomach churned. Disgusting, truly revolting, he brushed off the sleeve Xian had almost touched, as if it had come into contact with filth. Aunt Lu. Lu Ming's voice was flat, revealing no emotion. If you've got that much free time, go haul manure from the village entrance instead of spewing garbage here. And you? He turned toward Lynching. Are your hands or legs broken? If you can't carry your purchases, don't buy them. No one is obligated to wait on you. A deathly silence fell. Aunt Lu stood gaping, her mouth hanging open for a long moment. Xian was utterly stunned. Was this really Lu Ming? He was acting like a rabid dog. You. Who are you insulting? Aunt Lu recovered, trembling with rage. Ill-bred brat. Your parents passed young, so no one taught you any decency. At those words, Lu Ming's gaze turned icy, For a split second, it felt as if the temperature around them plummeted. He took a step forward, slipping one hand into his pocket to wrap his fingers around the tactical dagger he'd obtained a few days earlier. The killing aura of a man who had seen blood washed over them, stared down by that look. Aunt Lu swallowed the insults on her tongue. A chill crept up her neck as if a blade was pressed against her throat. Get out of my way. Lu Ming uttered a single word. A decent dog knows not to block the road. With that, he spared the two buffoons not another glance. He walked around the stacks of luxury bags and strode into the apartment building behind him. Lin Xian shrieked in fury, and Aunt Lu continued cursing. Lu Ming, just you wait. If I ever speak to you again, I'll take your surname. What a creep deserving to stay single forever. Lu Ming stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the 18th floor. The door slid shut, shutting out all the commotion outside. He let out a cold chuckle. Take my surname. You're not worthy. Wait until next month when you're on your knees starving, begging me for a moldy piece of bread. I wonder if you'll still be this arrogant. Back inside his empty apartment, he walked to the window and watched Lin Xian still complaining to Aunt Lu downstairs. The figure in the pink skirt looked oddly frail in the sunset. In little more than 20 days, those legs she was so proud of would be covered in oozing frostbite. Her soft skin would become fodder for rampaging thugs. Lu Ming pulled the curtains closed, blocking out the last of the sunlight. Enough thinking. Dwelling on it might soften his heart, even though his heart was harder than a butcher's blade these days. After drinking some water, Lu Ming decided to acquire more fuel. Even with the special operations suit protecting him, vehicles would be essential in the apocalypse. Scavenging supplies, fleeing danger, or running down raiders would be impossible without fuel. Besides, any heavy machinery he might obtain later would be nothing but scrap metal. Lu Ming pulled out his phone and opened the shopping app. He placed an order for batches of monocrystalline silicon solar panels. Rated at 500 watts each, they were the highest conversion efficiency model available. He bought 50 panels. He also ordered matching controllers, inverters, and storage batteries. Lithium iron phosphate batteries, 20 sets. They were rugged and long-lasting. Though after doomsday, the sun would seem dead, perpetually shrouded under cloud cover. Solar panels would still work with even a sliver of light. Every little bit helped. One more energy source meant one greater chance of survival. After paying, his account balance shrank once again. It didn't matter though. The supplies he planned to collect next would cost almost nothing. Small investment, massive gains. Lu Ming changed into dark athletic wear, pulled on a baseball cap and face mask, and slung his old backpack over his shoulders. The bag was empty. His real storage rested invisibly on one finger. Lu Ming climbed into the worn van, whose engine wheezed like an aging ox. The van was worn yet spacious and durable. Most importantly, it didn't attract attention. Stealing fuel in a Range Rover would be idiotic. Lu Ming drove out of the city, heading for private gas stations. Such stations had lax management, countless blind spots for surveillance cameras, and while their fuel quality left much to be desired, it was enough to keep machinery running. Night had fully fallen, street lights casting dim yellow glow. A gas station bearing the sign Zhangou Petroleum appeared by the roadside. There were barely any customers, only one attendant dozing on duty. Lu Ming pulled the van over to the furthest fuel pump, hidden from view by a large parked truck. Fill it up, Lu Ming called out. The attendant trudged over with sleepy eyes, inserted the fuel nozzle, then returned indoors. Self-service refueling was commonplace these days, and small private stations rarely bothered supervising customers closely. Lu Ming watched the numbers on the pump tick upward. He glanced left and right. Nobody was around, and the surveillance camera pointed directly at the rear of the large truck. Taking a deep breath, Lu Ming summoned large empty iron drums from his ring. 200 liters containers he picked up previously from a scrapyard. He pulled out the fuel nozzle and stuck it straight into the drum. Glug glug glug. Pale yellow diesel filled the container, releasing a pungent odor. To Lu Ming's nose, it smelled wonderful. This wasn't merely fuel, it was liquid gold. One drum full. Store. The heavy drum vanished instantly into the ring's storage space. Second drum, third drum. Lu Ming grew steadily more skilled, moving like a seasoned fuel thief. The figures on the pump climbed rapidly. 500 yuan. 1,000 yuan. 2,000 yuan. He stopped after pumping roughly 1 ton of diesel. He reinserted the nozzle into the van's tank and added another 100 yuan worth to fill it completely. He walked inside to settle the bill. The attendant's eyes nearly popped out upon seeing the total. Ho, buddy. Your Jinbai sure drinks fuel like there's no tomorrow. Over 1,000 yuan worth. I modified it. Lu Ming tugged his cap lower, then made up an excuse. upgraded to a larger fuel tank for long-distance travel. The attendant asked no further questions, satisfied as long as he received payment. Lu Ming handed over the cash and drove away. He moved on to the next station. That whole night, Lu Ming wandered the city outskirts like an indefatigable hamster. Remote gas stations saw the van roll through. By the wee hours of the morning, dozens of barrels were stacked in one corner of his ring storage. Tens of tons of diesel plus several tons of gasoline. Enough. More than enough to last a lifetime. Lu Ming parked the van by the roadside and chugged an energy drink. Fantastic. At that moment, several sports cars roared past at breakneck speed. The gust of wind they generated nearly tipped his van over. Several Ferraris and a Lamborghini. The vehicles pulled up outside a convenience store ahead. Several rich kids climbed out, shouting excitedly, "Hey, has anyone seen the news?" One blonde-haired youth waved his phone around enthusiastically. "They say a massive meteor shower is coming these days. Plus, auroras. Really? We're inland. Can we even see auroras here? If experts say so. It must be true. Something about abnormal solar activity. Awesome. We have to head up the mountain to watch. Bring girls, pop open champagne. It'll be epic." The group continued laughing and debating where to go sightseeing. Lu Ming sat in his van, watching these oblivious youngsters. Auroras, huh? That glow would mark the gates of hell opening. Solar flares would erupt, throwing Earth's magnetic field into chaos. What followed would not be romance, but an eternal ice age. Go ahead and watch. Lu Ming started the van and slowly drove into the darkness. Enjoy the view while your eyes haven't frozen solid. This is the last glow of human civilization after all. Dawn broke early the next morning and Lu Ming woke. It could hardly be called waking, for he had barely slept, having just been reborn. His nerves were stretched taut, impossible to relax. He splashed cold water over his face. He had important business today, acquiring medicine. In the apocalypse, pharmaceuticals were more valuable than gold. A cold could kill you. A fever could kill you. Diarrhea could kill you. A tiny infected wound might end with amputation. In his past life, he'd watched a strong man die from a cut. With no medicine available, his entire arm rotted away, and he died screaming in agony. Even now, the memory of those screams sent a chill down Lu Ming's spine. He got dressed, slung his decoy backpack over his shoulder, and headed out. He left the Jinbai van behind. It drew too much attention and was hard to park. Instead, he unlocked an electric scooter. Small scooters were nimble, perfect for weaving through alleyways. Better yet, he disabled automatic payment. He intended to ride for free. His first stop was an unassuming neighborhood pharmacy. Lu Ming dared not buy in bulk. Shopkeeper. 2 boxes of ibuprofen and a pack of amoxicillin. Operated under network surveillance these days. Buying antibiotics required identity registration, and large orders would arouse suspicion. Got a cold? The bald shop owner scanned the barcodes and asked casually. Yeah. Lots of people at home stocking up. Lu Ming fabricated an excuse, paid, collected the medicine, and left. He turned left upon exiting, heading to another pharmacy 2 streets away. To boxes of fever medicine, to boxes of norfloxacin, iodine, and gauze, too. Lu Ming moved tirelessly like an ant, traveling across every district of the city, east, west, south, north. He visited every pharmacy marked with the green cross emblem. By afternoon, he'd stopped at over pharmacies. His backpack was stuffed full. He slipped into an empty public restroom and whispered, "Store." The backpack emptied. Inside the ring, a designated medical storage area rose into a mound. Hundreds of boxes of cold medicine, antibiotics, painkillers, vitamins, too. They would be the sole source of micronutrients after doomsday. Without vegetables, deficiency would lead to tooth loss and internal bleeding. Staring at the stacks of medicine boxes, Lu Ming felt a sense of relief. Still, it was not enough. These were only over-the-counter and prescription medications easily purchased. Powerful drugs were unavailable at pharmacies. Strong broad-spectrum antibiotics or surgical anesthetics, for instance. Lu Ming found an internet cafe, logged on, put on headphones, and typed a jumble of characters forming a website address, the dark web. He learned how to access it from a hacker in his past life while hunting for supply sources. The interface was crude black background with white text resembling a bulletin board from 20 years ago. Yet the goods sold there were terrifying firearms, controlled substances, counterfeit identity documents. Lu Ming ignored all that. He searched directly for first aid kits and antibiotics. Soon a seller messaged him. Full Russian military first aid kit. Contains morphine injections, hemostatic powder, surgical sutures, price, $5,000 digital dollars. Expensive, ridiculously expensive. Roughly more than 30,000 yuan per kit. But Lu Ming did not hesitate for a second. I'll take 10 sets. I also need cephalosporin injections. Send me everything you have in stock. The seller was clearly surprised by such a decisive buyer and sent an OK emoji. Transfer the deposit. Meet at the usual location at midnight tonight to collect the goods. Lu Ming completed the money transfer, though it pained him to part with the cash. The thought that these supplies could save lives made it worthwhile. By the time he got hold of the medicine, night had fully fallen. His stomach rumbled loudly in protest. Lu Ming rubbed his belly. Over these past few days, he had been so busy stockpiling goods that he had mostly survived. On street food and takeout, tasty as it was, it still felt lacking somehow. Time for a proper feast. Lu Ming's gaze drifted toward the magnificent luxury hotel along the road, the Cloudtop Restaurant, the city's only 3 Michelin-starred venue. Once Lu Ming would not even dare lift his head to glance this way when passing by. Word had it that a single glass of water here cost 88 yuan. That was no ordinary drinking water. It was practically drinking blood. But things were different now. Let's go. Lu Ming tossed his shared bicycle onto the roadside, straightened his clothes, and strode inside. The hostess standing at the entrance wore a cheongsam and was quite pretty. Yet her eyes were sharp. She spotted Lu Ming's cheap streetwear and mud-stained sneakers at once. Sir, do you have a reservation? Her tone was polite, yet she suddenly blocked his path. No, Lu Ming replied without looking at her, moving straight forward. I'll make one now. I'm sorry, sir, but we have no open tables. A black card slammed down on the host's stand. It was not a bank card of special status. Well, it was just an ordinary debit card. Except Lu Ming had withdrawn 20,000 yuan in cash from the cash machine earlier, and tucked the banknotes beneath it. Bright red bills peeked out from the edge. The hostess's expression shifted in an instant, disdain melting away into soft, honeyed warmth. Sir, a private room has just become available due to a cancellation. Right this way, Lu Ming let out a cold laugh. Truly, money makes the world go round. The old saying held perfectly true. Stepping into the private room, he saw the decor was undeniably lavish. Crystal chandeliers dazzled the eyes, and floor-to-ceiling windows framed the entire city's night view. Streams of traffic and countless glowing lights filled the scene. No one could imagine this bustling metropolis would soon turn into a dead city. Sir, here is the menu. A waiter handed over a thick tome with a leather cover embossed with gold lettering. Lu Ming flipped open the first page. Australian grade 9 tomahawk steak for 1,888 yuan. Black truffle foie gras at 988 yuan. Caviar cost another small fortune, but every yuan would soon become worthless. So Lu Ming ordered without hesitation. While Lu Ming converted money into medicine and preserved meals, Su Fei sat inside a shabby rental room feeding his resentment. Being rejected had wounded his pride far more than losing the loan. He opened a private chat with Zhang Chong, the security captain controlling Lu Ming's residential complex. Zhang Chong was a neighborhood bully who treated a cheap uniform like royal authority. Su Fei claimed Lu Ming had suddenly become rich, purchasing luxury food, alcohol, and supplies with unexplained money. He deliberately described the wagyu beef, king crab, and mitai, knowing greed would do the rest. Zhang Chong immediately asked whether Lu Ming still behaved like the timid office worker. They remembered. Su Fei admitted something about him had changed. The old pushover now carried the stare of someone who had killed before. That warning should have made Zhang Chong cautious. Instead, it made the security captain more curious about whatever wealth Lu Ming might be hiding. Zhang Chong laughed and promised to visit the apartment after Lu Ming finished spending. Su Fei asked to join him, hoping humiliation would punish the friend who had finally rejected his control. The security captain agreed, already planning how to claim the largest share for himself. Neither man understood that Lu Ming could see their personalities more clearly than they understood themselves. He had watched Su Fei smile while carving flesh from his leg. He had watched Zhang Chong turn the frozen residential complex into a territory ruled through violence. Their alliance was not a surprise from Lu Ming's perspective. It was history rebuilding the exact threat he had prepared to destroy. Su Fei imagined they would frighten Lu Ming, seize his cash, and force him back into obedience. Zhang Chong imagined a quick extortion payment from a young homeowner without powerful relatives. Both men still believed laws, reputation, and neighborhood pressure gave them control. Lu Ming was already building a world where food, heat, and force would replace every one of those protections. Elsewhere, Lin Xian continued testing whether her former admirer remained useful. She sent sweet messages, complained about hunger, and expected him to resume serving her without question. Lu Ming ignored every attempt, leaving her confused by a man who no longer reacted to manufactured helplessness. Her confusion slowly became anger, because losing control felt more insulting than losing affection. That resentment placed her emotionally beside Su Fei and Zhang Chong. Even before she knew their plan, 3 people who once exploited Lu Ming were now circling the same apartment, for different selfish reasons. One wanted money, one wanted authority, and one wanted her obedient backup provider restored. None of them understood the steel, surveillance, weapons, or storage space taking shape behind Lu Ming's door. More importantly, none remembered the future because none had survived it the way he had. Lu Ming knew exactly how quickly polite neighbors became looters once hunger erased their masks. He knew Zhang Shang would organize the strong, Su Fei would betray anyone nearby, and Lin Xian would manipulate desperate men. That knowledge was more dangerous than any weapon the mystery box had granted. It allowed him to prepare counters before his enemies even recognized they were enemies. For now, Lu Ming let them talk, scheme, and mistake his silence for weakness. Every message they exchanged only confirmed that the future had not changed their nature. Their first move would come before the snow, hidden beneath rules, favors, and fake concern. Their second move would come after the cold, when they believed survival justified anything. Lu Ming intended to make certain they never reached a third move. The 2,000 square meter warehouse was packed to the rafters, stockpiles rising like mountains. On the left stood neatly stacked sacks of Wuchang rice, each weighing 25 kilograms, piled all the way to the ceiling. To the right were cartons of Jinlongyu blended cooking oil. Red plastic barrels glinted under the torchlight. The middle section held vacuum-packed cured pork, sausages, and countless cans. The supplies in the single warehouse could feed 1,000 people for an entire year. But from this moment on, everything belonged to Lu. Lu Ming walked up to the mountain of rice sacks and pressed his palm against the bottom layer store. With a thought, no sound was made, just like magic. Whoosh! The towering mound of rice vanished out of thin air, leaving only a thin layer of dust on the concrete floor. Lu Ming did not pause. He moved swiftly through the warehouse like a ghost. Store. The oil disappeared. Store. The cans disappeared. Store. The cured meats disappeared. In barely 10 minutes, the once crammed warehouse with barely space to stand was completely empty. Even several mice that had been sneaking rice in the corner froze. Half grains still dangled from their jaws as they stared at the suddenly vacant space. Questioning everything they knew, Lu Ming turned his attention to the ring's storage space. Within his consciousness, the gray void was now 1/3 full. All supplies hovered silently inside. This was his foundation, his guarantee to live with dignity once the apocalypse arrived. Still, he could not leave yet. If anyone discovered thousands of tons of goods vanishing without trace, it would spark rumors of supernatural happenings. The end was near, and few would bother investigating such a bizarre case. But Lu Ming wanted to avoid trouble. He pulled dozens of empty cardboard boxes out of his storage and scattered them. Then he drove his beat-up Jinbai van to the warehouse entrance, repeatedly reversing and slamming on the brakes. Screech, screech. Tires scraped against concrete, leaving chaotic black skid marks. He forged the scene to look as though a frantic convoy had carted everything away overnight. Once finished, Lu Ming brushed dust off his hands. Flawless. If anyone came to investigate, they would only assume creditors or gangsters had cleared out the warehouse overnight. No one would guess thousands of tons of goods resided inside a tiny ring. After leaving the logistics park, Lu Ming headed straight for the city's most high-end esports hotel in his Jinbai van instead of returning home. Get me a room. I want the fastest internet available. The reception girl had the dusty man with a tattered backpack strangely. But when Lu Ming slapped several red banknotes on the counter, her face broke into a wide smile at once. Right away, sir. Our premium suite comes with 10 gigabit fiber. Download speeds are lightning fast. Lu Ming entered the room, locked the door, and booted up his top-spec Alienware desktop. The connection truly lived up to its promise. Speed tests showed a download rate of 1,000 megabytes per second. From his backpack, Lu Ming pulled out the black box he had bought earlier at the computer market. A Synology network storage server loaded with 16-terabyte enterprise hard drives. 20 drives in total, amounting to 320 tab of storage. This would be his ark of spiritual nourishment. In the apocalypse, there would be no internet, no entertainment, only cold and bloodshed. Without these files, a person would lose their mind. Let's begin. Lu Ming's fingers flew across the keyboard, opening Xuanlei, Big Comet, and Bayonettas all at once. Movies. Download every film on the Internet Movie Database Top 250. The complete Marvel collection, all Stephen Chow's works, and well, those adult films too. Games. He opened Steam, Elden Ring, Cyberpunk 2077, Red Dead Redemption 2. Every major single-player title was queued for download. Hundreds of gigabytes of premium games he had never been willing to buy normally. He downloaded cracked versions without hesitation. Beyond entertainment lay vital preparations. Lu Ming opened a folder labeled Survival Guides. Handbook for talent skilled in both civil and military work. Barefoot Doctor's Manual. Encyclopedia of Wilderness Survival alongside tutorials on machinery maintenance, crop cultivation, and even how to make explosives from basic materials. These files would gather dust under normal circumstances. Yet in the end times, they represented knowledge that could be passed on. The computer fans whirred loudly, roaring like a helicopter taking off. Hard drive activity lights flickered non-stop, glowing a solid red. Lu Ming leaned back in an ergonomic chair, holding an icy cola, watching the green download progress bar scroll across the screen. A profound calm settled over him. Outside the window, the sky was gradually turning pale, the early morning of November 10th. The wind had grown stronger. It was not the mild chill of autumn, but a bitter, piercing gale. Pedestrians on the road wrapped their overcoats tightly around themselves, hunching their shoulders and complaining about the weather. Why has it turned so cold all of a sudden? The weather forecast never mentioned a temperature drop. Lu Ming stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the tiny figures below. A temperature drop. This was nothing. In a few days, they would learn how gentle his current cold truly was. Just then, his phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Lu Ming answered. "Hello, Boss Lu." A loud, gruff voice with a thick regional accent came through the line. "This is Wang, the renovation contractor. The steel plates and bulletproof glass you ordered have arrived. The factory shipped them out overnight. So, when should we start construction?" Excitement colored old Wang's tone. Lu Ming's payment had been extremely generous. He had turned down all other jobs for this contract and assembled more than a dozen of his best workers. Lu Ming glanced at the time. 8 o'clock in the morning. 20 days remained until the full outbreak of the apocalypse. Start immediately. Bring your crew and get to work right now. I want you to turn my apartment into an impenetrable iron fortress within a week. Not even a fly can slip inside. Old Wang pounded his chest confidently over the phone. "You've got it. Leave it to me. As long as the money is good, I could build you an imperial palace." 9 o'clock in the morning. Lu Ming returned to the 18th floor of Shengfu residential compound. He pushed open the front door. The apartment was empty. Nothing but gray bare cement walls and dust covering the floors. Only a few days earlier, this had been a warm little home. Now, it looked like an unfinished construction site. Lu Ming closed the door casually and tossed his prop backpack into the corner. He walked to the center of the living room and pulled an outdoor folding chair out of his storage. Settling down comfortably, the can of unlimited supply ice cola popped open. The fizzing bubbles echoed clearly in the vacant room. He did not find the space shabby. On the contrary, he appreciated its simplicity. Fancy decorations would only be a burden in the apocalypse, breeding grounds for bacteria, fuel for fires. Only cement and the steel plates soon to be installed formed the foundation for survival. Inventory check. Lu Ming closed his eyes, sending his consciousness into the subdimensional ring on his index finger. It felt like a god overlooking his own territory. The sight never failed to astound him. No matter how many times he witnessed it, sending tingles down his spine. The 100,000 cubic meter storage space was filled to capacity. The left side was the grain zone. 50 tons of Wuchang rice rose like a white wall, releasing a rich rice aroma. Beside it sat another 50 tons of Wadeli flour. One whole side of the invisible boundary was lined with cured pork, and sausages streaked red and white, glistening with fat. The center was the liquid zone, 2,000 barrels of Jinlongyu cooking oil, 5,000 cartons of Nongfu spring bottled water, plus dozens of large metal drums filled with petrol and diesel collected from petrol stations. All over the city. Energy. The fuel that would let him roar across frozen wastelands in an off-road vehicle in the future. The right side served as the supplies zone. A dozen first aid kits rested there quietly. Morphine, hemostatic powder, antibiotics. Every box held the power to save a life. Also inside stood the Synology Network storage server. He had filled with files the previous day, its black casing gleaming coldly. 320 tab of entertainment, enough to last him a lifetime. Wealth. Unimaginable wealth. Lu Ming opened his eyes, a grin spreading uncontrollably across his face. In his past life, he had been trampled into mud and humiliated fighting over half a moldy biscuit. In this life, he sat atop a mountain of supplies. This sense of security surpassed any luxury car or mansion money could buy. Ring, 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 ring. The phone on the floor vibrated violently, breaking the silence of the room. Lu Ming frowned and picked it up. The screen was flooded with missed calls marked in red. Online collection agent, Alipay borrow service, customer service. Another bank's credit card sender. One unfamiliar landline number was also listed, most likely from an outsourced debt collection firm. Over these past days, he had taken out several million yuan in online loans and maxed out every credit card he owned. Had the reckoning finally arrived, he let out a scoff. Lu Ming answered the landline and switched on speakerphone. "Hey, is this Lu Ming?" A menacing voice crackled over the phone, punctuated by the clatter of keyboard tapping in the background. "You're 20 days overdue on the 200,000 you owe our firm. If you don't pay up now, we'll leak your contact list. We'll hang banners outside your workplace and ruin your reputation." An average person would have been terrified hearing this. But Lu Ming merely took a sip of cola and burped. What's your attitude?" The caller was clearly enraged. "I'm talking to you about serious business. You want to end up in jail, buddy?" Lu Ming spoke calmly. "Save your phone credit. You stock up on more rice and thick warm clothes." Lu Ming's tone remained placid, as if discussing something utterly trivial. "Don't freeze to death later. If you come back as a ghost to chase me for debt, you'll still have to wait in line." He hung up. The debt collector on the other end was presumably seething and frantically redialing. Lu Ming watched the screen light up repeatedly, a mocking glint in his eyes. Leak contacts, ruin his reputation, jail. These burdens that could crush ordinary people in peaceful times meant nothing. Before the end of the world, in 20 more days, laws would turn to worthless paper. The only rules would be the guns in your hands and the food in your stomach. Lu Ming pried open the back cover of his phone and pulled out the phone chip card. Crack. He squeezed hard between the fingers and the tiny chip snapped clean in two. He tossed the broken card aside. It arced through the air and landed in a pile of rubbish in the corner. He then pulled a spare phone out of his spatial storage, one he had prepared long beforehand with an untraceable burner phone chip. This dedicated line was only for contacting construction crews and receiving supplies. Peace returned. From this moment onward, Lu Ming severed all social ties to his old life. He was no longer the wage slave weighed down by mortgage and car loans. He was the lord of the apocalyptic stronghold. Lu Ming stood and walked out onto the balcony. The view from the 18th floor was spectacular, overlooking the entire residential complex and even half the city. Down below, the sun still shone bright. The temperature had dropped, yet it remained tolerable for humans. The complex garden bustled with activity. By the security booth, Zhang Chong, the burly head of security, was yelling furiously at a food delivery rider. "Are you blind? Who said you could waltz into this complex register? Hand over your identity card." Zhang Chong wore an ill-fitting uniform, waving a rubber baton and spraying spittle everywhere. The delivery rider kept his head down, apologizing non-stop, sweating profusely out of anxiety. Lu Ming watched coldly. Men like Zhang Chong were bullies who picked on the weak and feared the strong in peacetime. Given a scrap of authority, they acted as if they held absolute power. When the apocalypse arrived, his inner malice would be fully unleashed. He would become a petty tyrant within the complex, looting supplies and preying on women, committing every evil imaginable. "Enjoy your shouting while you still can," Lu Ming murmured, swirling his cola can. His gaze shifted. On the lawn, a figure in a white down jacket was walking a dog. It was Lin Xian. She held the leash of her teddy named Dao, pouting, making heart gestures, tilting her head upward at a 45 angle. "Hey everyone, it's so chilly today. Remember to wrap up warm, even from this distance." Lu Ming could almost hear her cloying, sugary baby voice. The teddy defecated on the lawn. Yet Lin Xian did not spare at a glance. She simply tugged the dog away. A cleaning ant silently stepped forward afterward to sweep up the mess. A quintessential self-serving opportunist. In his past life, she had used her looks to trick supplies from countless men in the early days of the apocalypse, including Lu Ming. "Brother Lu Ming, I'm so cold. I want something hot to eat." The memory of that voice still turned his stomach. "I've got no warm food for you." Lu Ming's eyes turned icy, but there's plenty of hot garbage. Further in the distance, a group of elderly women danced square dancing on the plaza. The loudspeaker blared at full volume, tormenting residents on lower floors who dared not complain openly. "The boundless horizon holds my love." Aunt Lu swayed her stout hips, her face flushed. She was the complex's unofficial gossip hub and a master of moral coercion. She knew every household's business, exactly how many people lived in each flat and what they had bought. When disaster struck, she had led the mob that broke down Lu Ming's door. We're all neighbors. How can you hoard everything for yourself without a twinge of guilt? Lu Ming, what's wrong with sharing a bite with your old aunt? Lu Ming tapped his fingers lightly against the cold railing. All these lively, greedy, hypocritical people would become walking corpses under the shadow of the apocalypse. Some would freeze solid into ice sculptures. Some would turn savage beast. and others would end up as food. Pathetic. November 11th, Singles Day. In previous years, Lu Ming would have curled up under his duvet, scrolling through shopping platforms, hunting for discounted toilet paper and laundry detergent, racking his brains over tiny rebates. But not today. Boom, a deafening crash shook the entire building, followed by heavy-duty jackhammers striking concrete, a shrill, piercing noise that felt as though the drill was boring straight into one's skull. Lu Ming sat alone on a folding chair in the center of the living room, wearing newly purchased Sony noise-canceling headphones and holding an ice-cold cola. Hiss. He twisted open the cap, white vapor rising up. He tilted his head back and took a gulp. The icy liquid slid down his throat, sending a sharp shiver through him. Perfect. Heavy metal rock blared in his headphones, blocking out most of the racket outside. In front of him, old Wang worked shirtless, swinging a 12-pound sledgehammer. Every muscle in his body tensed. Old Wang chanted with every sledgehammer strike, collapsing non-load-bearing walls while brick fragments and thick dust filled the apartment. Cough, boss. How's that power? Old Wang wiped dust off his face, revealing a row of white teeth. The sweat streamed down his dark spine. Don't worry. I'll knock all these non-load-bearing walls down this morning. They won't stay standing till the new year. Lu Ming nodded and gestured toward a crate of Red Bull beside him. Help yourselves, lads. Much appreciated, boss. Over a dozen workers surged with renewed energy, demolishing furiously inside the 90-square-meter apartment. Tear everything down, everything. Aside from the load-bearing pillars and exterior walls, Lu Ming intended to transform the flat into one open, seamless space. Those pointless-to-bedroom partitions would only block sight lines once the apocalypse came. He needed an unobstructed view of every corner of the home. Just then, the phone resting on his knee flashed wildly. The residential group chat had erupted. 1,800 to Grandpa John. What on earth is happening? Is it an earthquake? 12 for Sisterly. Which household is renovating at this hour? Have they no consideration? My child is attending online classes. 701 Wang Chong. Damn it, can they keep the noise down? I just got home after night shift. Lu Ming skimmed the messages and curled his lips into a cold smirk. Early morning. It was 10 o'clock in the morning within legal renovation hours. What law was he breaking? Moments later, a 60-second voice message popped up sent from an account with a gaudy peony flower avatar. Lu Ming did not play the audio. He could guess exactly. He converted the voice to text rather than subjecting his ears to her yelling. Aunt Lu at 1,801. Lu Ming, have you lost your mind? Is this how you demolish a flat? You'll shake the whole building down. You're putting everyone at risk. Selfish. So selfish. I'm warning you. Stop work right now. Another message followed immediately. Aunt Lu, everyone don't stand for this. This boy needs to be taught a lesson. He looks quiet normally, but his true colors are showing. Come with me upstairs. Block his doorway. Stop this renovation. Dozens of replies poured in at once. 16,003, right? Let's go confront him. 1,702. I'm coming too. The noise is unbearable. Lu Ming stared at the screen without the slightest ripple of emotion. Lock my door. Come ahead. In his past life, these very same people had hurled identical insults in this chat 3 days after the extreme cold descended. Then they broke through. They broke through his front door and stole his last sack of rice. Back then, Aunt Lu had pressed her shoe against his face and said, Shao, you live alone anyway. You can't eat all that. Let your old aunt take some off your hands. He could still feel the dull ache on his cheeks. Bang, bang, bang. Heavy blows slammed against the security door. Not knocks, violent strikes, even through the noisy answering headphones. The shouting outside was audible. Lu Ming, open this door. Get out here. Old Wang froze mid-swing with the sledgehammer, glancing awkwardly at Lu Ming. Boss, what do we do? All the workmen halted and exchanged uneasy looks. Renovation crews dreaded neighborhood conflicts if things escalated and police arrived. Work would stop, and they would lose pay. Lu Ming stood and brushed dust off his trousers. Keep smashing. Don't stop. He walked to the door and peered through the peephole. A crowd packed the corridor. Aunt Lu stood at the front, her fleshy cheeks quivering with rage. Beside her stood the property manager in uniform. The manager was a blatant opportunist. He practically grilled to wealthy homeowners driving luxury cars. Yet culinary tasks aside, barely spared Lu Ming a glance. Lu Ming, we know you're inside. The manager shouted, This is property management. Open up immediately. Multiple residents have filed complaints over illegal renovation and potential structural damage. Lu Ming gripped the doorknob and pulled the door wide open in one sharp motion. Clang. The crowd outside stumbled forward. Caught off guard by the sudden opening, Aunt Lu staggered, pointed her finger straight at Lu Ming, and began screaming, "You ungrateful little, shut up." Lu Ming shot her a cold glance, his expression blank without anger, as if he were gazing at livestock waiting for slaughter. Aunt Lu choked. The words stuck fast in her throat. Ignoring her, Lu Ming turned straight to the property manager. "Illegal. Which regulation have I broken?" The manager wore a stern expression, hands behind his back. Feigning impartiality, "We have received numerous noise complaints. The vibrations are extreme, and we suspect structural tampering. Work must cease for inspection, and you will face fines." "Exactly. Fine him heavily." Aunt Lu egged him on. "Make him rebuild the walls. Cut his power. Shut off his water supply." Someone shouted from the back of the crowd. The manager eyed Lu Ming with quiet triumph. "Mr. Lu, for the safety of all residents, we are forced to disconnect your electricity until you rectify the issues." Slap. A stack of red banknotes landed hard against the manager's chest. He caught them instinctively. The bundle felt thick and heavy. He glanced down and his eyes nearly bulged. Cash. Brand new 100 yuan notes. To full bundles, 20,000 yuan in total. This covers prepaid electricity fees, next year's property management fees, and a little extra for you to buy tea with. The manager's hands trembled. 20,000 yuan. His monthly salary was only 4,000 yuan. This amounted to half a year's pay. Untraceable cash off the books. His previously dark, scowling face instantly bloomed into a wrinkly grin. "Oh my, Mr. Lu, there's no need for this. You're far too generous." He stuffed the money into his pockets in one fluid, hurried movement. Terrified Lu Ming might change his mind. "Well, a little noise during renovation is perfectly normal." The manager cleared his throat, spun around, and fixed a stern glare on Aunt Lu and the mob. "We should all be understanding. Mr. Lu is working within permitted renovation hours. I've already checked. No load-bearing walls have been touched. Everything complies with regulations." "Regulations? My foot." Aunt Lu flew into a rage, spraying spittle everywhere. "Are you blind? The whole building is shaking. Lu often." The manager raised his voice sharply. "Watch your tone. Are you an expert? I say everything is fine." "So it is. What are you all loitering around here for? Don't you have work or cooking to do? Disperse now. Anyone continuing to stir up trouble will be reported for disrupting public order, and I will call the police." "Grease with cash," he managed. The manager defended Lu Ming fiercely, hurting the crowd and pushing Aunt Lu toward the elevators. "You two. This is outrageous. You're in cahoots." Aunt Lu shook with fury, pointing between the manager and Lu Ming. "Mark my words, this isn't over. Move along. Don't block work." The manager practically shoved Aunt Lu into the lift before turning back to beam obsequiously at Lu Ming. "Carry on with your work. Mr. Lu, call me anytime you need something. Your power supply is guaranteed. Anyone who tries to cut the electricity will have me to answer to." Lu Ming nodded silently and closed the front door. Bang. Quiet settled again. Muffled shouts of the manager reprimanding the crowd drifted from the corridor. Money truly makes the world go round. The old saying held perfectly true. Lu Ming walked back inside. Old Wang and the other workmen stared in stunned amazement. After years traveling across the country doing renovations, they had seen clients offer cigarettes or treat crews to meals, but never anyone who simply handed a large sum of cash straight to the property manager. "Boss, you're something else." Old Wang gave a thumbs up. "Back to work." Lu Ming offered no explanation and headed for the bathroom. The only room still fitted with a door even though its frame was barely hanging on. After the shaking, the crash of sledgehammers resumed louder than before now that they saw how unyielding their employer was. Old Wang and his crew swung their tools with even greater force. Lu Ming locked the bathroom door and sat down on the toilet, checking his phone. 11:11. An auspicious number. He had not opened today's mystery box yet. The time was perfect. He tapped the black app icon on his screen. Open. It was Saturday, normally a day for minor rewards. Yet the glow emanating from the screen seemed unusually bright. "Congratulations. You have obtained multifunctional tactical entrenching tool titanium alloy supreme version. Description: total length 80 centimeters. The blade is forged from aerospace-grade titanium alloy with hardness Rockwell hardness 60+. One edge forms an axe blade, the other serrated. It can dig, chop, saw, shovel, and even be used as a frying pan. Built-in flint rod, survival whistle, and window breaker. Warning: this weapon can cleave a human skull as easily as slicing a watermelon. Not recommended for peeling apples." A black entrenching tool materialized out of thin air in Lu Ming's grasp. His first impression was weight. Despite being titanium alloy, the dense construction made it substantial, roughly weighing 3 to 4 kilograms. Matte black all over with zero reflection. Non-slip per acrid wrapped the handle for a firm grip. Lu Ming brushed his finger near the blade edge. It was razor sharp. A biting, chilling sharpness, so intense his skin prickled when he drew close. Excellent gear. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. In the apocalypse, melee weapons like this could outperform firearms. Guns made noise and ran out of ammunition. This tool, as long as you possess strength, it would never fail you. Lu Ming stood and swung hard at the wooden towel rack still standing. Swish! A dark blur cut through the air. The thick, solid wooden pole, as wide as a wrist, snapped cleanly in two. Its cut surface smooth enough to reflect light. Lu Ming barely felt any resistance. If this blow landed on a person's neck, images flashed through his mind. Aunt Lu's fleshy face and Zhang Chong the bully's neck. He let out a low, cold chuckle inside the bathroom. If anyone dared break down his door, he would show them what a genuine crack skull meant with this tool. Lu Ming stored the entrenching tool inside his spatial ring and stepped back outside. Work continued late into the night. Wrap it up, old Wang called out. The workers were covered head to toe in dust as though they had just climbed out of a coal mine. Lu Ming scanned the space. The once cramped flat divided into multiple small rooms was now a bare shell. Partition walls demolished, floorboards torn up, tiles stripped completely from the kitchen and bathroom. Exposed concrete and red brick stretched everywhere and dust hung thick. To Lu Ming, however, this was far preferable to fancy decorated interiors. It was the foundation his stronghold needed. Boss, old Wang wandered over with a troubled look, rubbing dust off his palms. There's something I need to talk to you about. Speak. Lu Ming handed him water. Old Wang did not drink it, and sighed. The steel plates you ordered, the supplier just called to say delivery is nearly here. But what? They're far too heavy. These 20 centimeters alloy plates each weigh several hundred kilograms. The building lift is designed for passengers, not heavy cargo. It cannot support the load. On top of that, the dimensions won't fit through the lift doors if we carried them up the stairs. This is the 18th floor, boss. We would need extra pay, and even then, the lads will wreck their backs. It was indeed a major hurdle. Hauling dozens of tons of steel up 18 flights. Manually would be treating men like beasts. Lu Ming frowned and walked to the window to look down. Beneath the night sky, a heavy truck with hazard lights flashing slowly rolled into the compound. Its cargo bed loaded with dark steel plates. The elevator won't fit them. Lu Ming tapped his fingers on the window, his eyes flickering. Then there was only one option left. Hoist them up, Lu. Ming turned to look at old Wang. Rent a heavy tonnage crane and lift them straight in through the balcony. A crane. Old Wang was stunned. Boss, it's the middle of the night. Lifting loads inside the compound will make a racket. The property management money. Lu Ming uttered just one word. I'll pay double the crane fees. I'll sort out the property staff. 2. Enough to make them hold their tongues. Lu Ming's eyes glinted eerily in the darkness. The materials have to be brought up tonight. No one, not even heaven itself, can stop this. Old Wang swallowed hard as he stared at. Old Wang accepted the plan, arranging a heavy crane and a night crew after Lu Ming doubled every fee. At 2 in the morning, the residential compound silence broke beneath idling trucks and the deep mechanical rumble of lifting equipment. 2 red stair heavy trucks parked below Building 18, their engines idled. The low hum resembling to wild beast panting. Neat stacks of pitch-black steel plates filled the cargo beds, glinting with cold, hard, metallic sheen beneath the street lights. Nearby, a yellow industrial crane extended its massive boom. It was a 100-ton class crane. The moment its outriggers settled on the pavement, faint cracking sounds echoed. From the concrete lift, the veteran crane operator held a cigarette between his lips and gently pushed the control lever. The steel cables tautened and the first alloy plate rose. The huge alloy steel plate swayed slowly upward to the 18th floor. Lu Ming stood at the edge of the balcony. Strong night winds whipped his windbreaker, yet he did not stir an inch. Slow down. Nudge it left a little. Beside him, old Wang leaned halfway out over the balcony with a walkie-talkie, directing the operator down below. Thud. With a dull crash, the over 150-kilogram steel plate landed steadily on the concrete floor, sending a faint tremor through the slab. Such noise would surely draw complaints in daylight, but it was too in the dead of night. What's more, Lu Ming had offered double overtime pay. Both the crane crew and old Wang's workers were fired up. No one grumbled about fatigue. As for the neighbors, let them wake up. Lu Ming took a sip from his Red Bull can, his expression cold. They would struggle to sleep in a few days anyway. Tormented by the bitter cold, this racket was just a preview. Boss, This steel plate is top-tier stuff, old Wang ran a hand over the newly landed plate. It felt icy to the touch. Tapping it produced a deep muffled tone instead of a sharp ring. Bridge-grade manganese steel. Manganese steel. This material is normally used for bridges. You're laying at his flooring. Old Wang clicked his tongue in amazement. He had worked in renovations for 20 years. He'd seen marble flooring, solid wood flooring, but never manganese steel. This was a first. Lay it. Lu Ming crumpled the empty can. He tossed it into a corner. Build it to be as sturdy as possible. Will do. Old Wang waved his hand. Several burly men stripped off their shirts and hauled the steel plates inside in unison, chanting work cries. For the next several hours, the 18th floor resembled a steel mill. The piercing blue glow of welding arcs flickered through the night, casting erratic light across the room. The smell of burning welding rods mixed with ozone hung thick in the air. Lu Ming demanded full penetration welding, not spot welding, not intermittent welding. Every seam had to be fully filled with weld metal to fuse the steel plates into a single solid mass. Walls, floors, ceiling. He turned the flat into an airtight box, a six-sided absolute defense bunker. In his past life, raiders had breached his walls using jackhammers and hydraulic cutters. Ordinary walls might as well have been biscuits against professional tools. But not this time. Lu Ming glanced at the steel walls. The slowly taking shape black steel walls made him curl his lips into a cold smirk. 20 centimeters of manganese steel layered over concrete. Even in rocket-propelled grenade rocket launcher would need ages to blast through. As for neighbors with kitchen knives, let them hack away. Their blades would dull long before leaving so much as a scratch downstairs. Lin Xian wandered across the lawn with her teddy dog Dao. She wore white silk pajamas with a down jacket pulled over top. She was not truly out walking the dog. Fed up with the commotion of stairs, she had come down to escape the noise and watch the spectacle. She tilted her head, staring at the flickering blue light and the enormous crane boom. He's lost his mind. Lin Xian pulled her jacket tighter. The night wind cut sharply, making her shiver. Going to such lengths in the middle of the night. How much money must this cost? She knew nothing about renovations, yet she noticed the expense. Where did that pauper Lu Ming get so much cash? Could he have won the lottery? Greedy thoughts swirled in her head. She pulled out her phone, filmed a short video of the 18th floor, and sent it to Lu Ming. Lin Xian, brother Lu Ming, still awake. I hear so much noise at your place. What are you up to? It looks like you're building a nuclear shelter. Smirking face after sending it. She stared at the screen, waiting for a reply. Once, whenever she messaged him, Lu Ming responded instantly, fretting over her late at night. On the 18th floor, Lu Ming's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out and glanced at the message. A nuclear shelter. Hut, if nuclear war really struck, you wouldn't live long enough to stand there gossiping. Lu Ming swiped across the screen and deleted the chat window without sending a single character. He had no time for this scheming woman. All his focus remained fixed on the walls. Boss, all steel plates are laid. Old Wang wiped sweat from his forehead. Even on this late autumn night, he rolled off his body. Next up is that Aragul something felt. Aragul insulation felt. Lu Ming gestured toward dozens of sponge-like rolls stacked in the corner. The stock alone had cost him 300,000. They looked unimpressive. Thin layers. Dull gray, almost resembling ragged cotton waste. Yet, this was aerospace-grade material. The same thermal insulation used on Mars rovers. Its thermal conductivity was staggeringly low. A mere 10mm sheet delivered insulation equivalent to a 1-meter thick red brick wall. When the end times arrived, cold would prove far deadlier than hunger. Temperatures near -70 degrees Celsius would defeat ordinary insulation, allowing precious heat to escape while frostbite destroyed exposed flesh. Old Wang lifted one nearly weightless roll and questioned the expense, insisting ordinary rock wool should be enough for any normal winter. Unyielding, lay 2 layers. Sandwich this between 2 sheets of steel plate. I want this apartment to work like a thermos flask. Old Wang opened his mouth, ready to mutter about throwing money away. But the memory of the 2 million overtime pay shut him up at once. Get laying, do it carefully. Old Wang shouted. No gaps, this treasure cost 300,000. The workers carefully attached the felt to the steel. They covered it with the second steel sheet. Lu Ming stood by supervising every inch, every corner. As layers of gray felt were sealed inside the walls, his sense of safety grew stronger. This was more than insulation. It marked the line between life and death. With it, even if the world outside froze into an ice age, the room would stay warm. he could walk around, in short sleeves, sipping ice cola, watching his bully shiver. Watching them freeze solid into ice sculptures would be a pleasing contrast. That sense of superiority made Lu Ming take a deep breath. Even the air tasted sweeter. Work dragged on until dawn neared. Boss. Most of the structural work is finished. Old Wang collapsed onto the ground, barely able to hold his cigarette. These walls and floors are now an impenetrable steel barrel. Not even an atomic bomb could breach us. Lu Ming scanned the room. The reinforced walls made the space slightly smaller. Yet, the heavy solid aura brought immense reassurance. This was a safe house, his ark. Then a gust of frigid wind surged inside, making old Wang sneeze. Lu Ming turned toward the balcony. A huge dark void gaped there. The sliding glass doors had long been removed to hoist steel plates. Even the window frames had been completely demolished. Chilly wind swept unrestrainedly into the apartment. Old Lu Ming walked to the large opening, his toes right at the edge. 18 stories of empty air stretched far below. When will the windows arrive? Any minute now. Old Wang scrambled to check his phone. The manufacturer says they're en route. Should get here by noon. That bulletproof glass is custom-made. I heard it can stop sniper rounds. Curiosity tugged at old Wang. This was far beyond renovation. It was wartime fortification. Lu Ming offered no answer. He stared toward the distant horizon as the sun rose, burning red, painting the clouds as if engulfed by flame. Moments later, he turned back, his voice steady. Press the manufacturer. I want that glass installed before nightfall. Every minute late deducts 10,000 from the final payment. At the mention of withheld pay, old Wang jumped to his feet and roared into his phone. Hey Zhang, where the hell is your truck? The boss needs this urgently. If you don't get here soon, I'll wreck your workshop. Lu Ming smiled. He picked up a cola bottle from the floor and clinked it. Pleasure doing business. 12 o'clock noon. Behind the red stair truck, an air-cushioned shock-absorbed vehicle built for precision equipment pulled to a stop. Workers wearing anti-shock suits carefully hoisted massive wooden crates onto the crane's lifting gear. Easy, everyone. Take it slow. The manufacturer's technician shouted until his throat went hoarse. Arrow down below. Each pane cost 200,000. You couldn't pay for one if you sold yourselves. 200,000 a piece. Lu Ming had ordered for panes in total. They would serve as the ultimate barriers sealing off the gaping balcony opening. When the first pane slowly rose to the 18th floor, even seasoned, old Wang gasped. Old Wang knocked against the newly delivered glass. It produced no ring as though striking solid stone. Boss, you call this glass? It was less glass and more transparent wall, with an overall thickness of 10 centimeters, slightly thinner than a brick wall, yet infinitely more intimidating. It carried a deep muted green tint, the result of multiple layers of high-strength polycarbonate laminated with tempered glass, triple laminated structure. Lu Ming reached to touch the surface. It felt cold, smooth, hard as diamond. Aerospace-grade bulletproof film sandwiched between layers. Even a .50 caliber Barrett sniper rifle firing 3 consecutive shots at the same spot cannot pierce it. An ordinary rifle rounds. Lu Ming laughed coldly. Little more than a tickle. Old Wang swallowed nervously. A sniper rifle. Who exactly was the boss guarding against? Aliens. Install them, Lu Ming ordered. Seal the balcony completely. The workers set to work once more. The noise of drills and hammering filled the air. Just then, a gruff shout echoed from the doorway, sharp and aggressive. What's going on here? Lu Ming turned. A burly security guard stood in the entrance. The rough-faced guard gripped a rubber baton as he craned his neck to peer inside. By noon, from massive bulletproof panes were rising toward the 18th floor, each thicker than the walls of ordinary homes. The transparent barriers sealed the balcony, while concealed firing ports gave Lu Ming control over every approach from outside. Then Zhang Chong entered swinging his baton, convinced his tiny security badge entitled him to extort the wrong survivor. Zhang Chong swaggered into the apartment with a rubber baton, pretending he had arrived to inspect unauthorized construction. His eyes ignored safety and went directly to the expensive steel walls and bulletproof glass. Greed transformed his fake concern into open calculation. He announced that Lu Ming had altered the building exterior and threatened to shut the entire project down. Then the security captain rubbed his fingers together, revealing the real purpose behind his visit. 20,000 yuan, several cartons of cigarettes. And Zhang Shang would supposedly forget everything he had seen. The old Lu Ming might have paid while apologizing. The reincarnated survivor only asked what would happen if he refused. Zhang Shang stepped closer, using his larger body and uniform to manufacture authority. He promised to stop the workers and smash the custom glass before installation could finish. That threat silenced every laborer in the room. Old Wang prepared to mediate, but Lu Ming stopped him with one look. His right hand closed around the titanium entrenching tool. Matte black metal turned between his fingers, and the sharpened edge caught the construction lights. Lu Ming did not shout or threaten. He simply looked at Zhang Chong the way he had once looked at starving killers. Inside the frozen shelter, the security captain recognized something primal in that expression. His baton stopped tapping against his palm. Zhang Chong had fought weak residents and drunken troublemakers, but this gaze carried no fear of consequences. It promised that one wrong movement could end with blood across the new steel floor. Lu Ming told him to leave. The quiet words carried more pressure than Zhang Chong's entire performance. The bully tried to recover his pride by mentioning cameras, police, and assault charges. None of those words changed Lu Ming's stance. The entrenching tool remained ready, balanced like an executioner's blade. Zhang Chong stepped backward without realizing he had moved. His body understood the danger before his ego accepted it. Unable to extort money, he pointed at Lu Ming and promised the conflict was not finished. Then he turned quickly, caught his foot on a coil of wire, and nearly fell while escaping. Outside the doorway, Zhang Chong cursed loudly enough for the workers to hear. Inside, nobody laughed because everyone had felt the killing pressure that drove him away. Old Wang warned that making an enemy of the security captain could create future trouble. Lu Ming calmly stored the weapon and ordered the glass installation to continue. Future trouble was exactly what he had built the fortress to survive. By sunset, massive panes sealed the balcony inside reinforced alloy frames. Each transparent wall could withstand repeated 50 caliber impacts at the same point. Hidden firing ports remained capped between the seams, invisible to anyone watching from outside. The completed barrier removed the apartment's final vulnerable opening. Zhang Chong still believed he could return with more men and greater pressure. He did not understand that every arm made Lu Ming's position harder to breach. By the time the cold arrived, the security captain would be threatening a fortress that could answer back. Boss, all done. Old Wang tittied his tools, staring in awe at the fortress of steel surrounding him. This was no ordinary home. It was a bunker built on the 18th floor. Steel walls, steel flooring, even bulletproof windows. Here is part of the payment. The remainder will be settled at month's end. Lu Ming tossed several bundles of cash over to Old Wang. These laborers endured hardship. Originally, Lu Ming had considered paying them nothing, yet he decided to hand over the money. A small luxury before the end times. As for warning them about the apocalypse, setting aside whether they would believe him, Lu Ming would never reveal the truth. They were not close enough for him to take that risk. No need to count. You're generous, boss. Old Wang clutched the cash, grinning widely. It had been a rewarding job. The boss was strange, yet he paid handsomely. After seeing Old Wang and the workers off, silence descended once more on the apartment. Lu Ming walked over to the balcony, through the 10 cm thick glass. The world outside appeared distorted, and all noise was completely sealed off. The honking of cars on the road downstairs, and the music from elderly women dancing square dance vanished without a trace. Silence engulfed him, as if he were deep beneath the ocean. Lu Ming stretched out a hand and pressed it against the cold glass. The firm touch flooded his heart with a powerful sense of security. The hard renovation work was finished. This once fragile commercial apartment had now become one of the strongest fortresses in the city. Even if floods raged outside and zombies laid siege to the city, he could hold a glass of red wine inside the steel box and watch the chaos unfold with a calm smile. Gurgle, his stomach rumbled. He had been busy the entire day and had not eaten a single bite. Lu Ming retrieved a steaming box of Pizza Hut pizza from his spatial storage. The supreme durian flavor. When he lifted the lid, rich fragrance instantly filled every corner of the flat. He took a bite. Strings of mozzarella stretched apart and sweet fruit flesh melted on his tongue. Truly delicious. As he ate the pizza, he glanced at the time displayed on his phone. 11:59 at night, November 12th. A brand new day was about to arrive, a Sunday, according to the rules of the mystery box. Sundays yielded intermediate rewards. Last Sunday, he had drawn the overpowered subspace ring. What would he get this time? Lu Ming wolfed down the last slice of pizza, wiped oil off his hands, and his heartbeat quickened. This anticipation was 100 times stronger than waiting for his year-end bonus in his previous life. Finally, the clock struck midnight, and his phone vibrated once. 1 second. The purple glow on the phone screen slowly faded, replaced by a somber black sheen edged with the aura of slaughter. It was no ordinary black. It was a matte shade that seemed to swallow all light. Lu Ming held his breath, his fingers trembling faintly. An intermediate reward. What would it be this week? A mech or a nuclear missile silo, of course. That was just wishful thinking. As the light dissipated, an elongated black crate materialized out of thin air on the coffee table. It was heavy enough to make the table creak under its weight. Lu Ming reached out and unlatched the fasteners. With a soft click, the lid sprang open. Resting inside was a deadly weapon crafted with stark industrial aesthetics. Congratulations on obtaining Night Stalker Composite Tactical Crossbow. Comes with 50 carbon fiber armor-piercing bolts. Description: military individual combat weapon forged from aerospace aluminum alloy and carbon fiber. Equipped with a built-in miniature winch cocking system. Draw weight to 100 pounds. Muzzle velocity for 120 feet per second. Fitted with a 4x30 to red dot sight and laser sight. Silent, precise, lethal. Note this device was known as the Divine Arm Crossbow in ancient times. In the modern era, it is a death warrant, a crossbow. Lu Ming's pupils constricted sharply. In the early days of the apocalypse, this was an artifact among artifacts. While firearms were powerful, they created far too much noise. More importantly, firearms were extremely hard to acquire, though he was a reincarnator. He had only ever been an ordinary civilian. Where would he get guns? Bullets were finite too. Once spent, there would be nowhere to restock them amid the chaotic wasteland. This crossbow was different. Silent, it became the side of the Reaper under cover of night, claiming lives without a sound. What's more, its ammunition was recoverable. Bolts could be pulled free and reused after firing. As long as the bolt head stayed intact, he possessed unlimited ammunition. Lu Ming gripped the crossbow body firmly. The icy sensation made his blood boil. It was heavy, weighing roughly 3 to 4 kilograms. It sat rock steady. He tested turning the winch. The mechanism produced an almost imperceptible mechanical meshing sound. The bow limbs slowly drew taut. The high tensile boring locked into the ready-to-fire position. The building tension sending a shudder through his chest. Lu Ming pulled one black bolt from the crate. The carbon fiber shaft was light as a feather yet immensely tough. The 3-edged bolt head glinted coldly with blood grooves carved into every facet. Once this bolt pierced a human body, it would tear open a massive wound that could never be staunched. Let's test it. Lu Ming glanced around. The flat was empty, perfect for a shooting range. He aimed at a pile of leftover construction planks in the corner. Old door frames and floorboards torn out by old Wang and his crew stacked 10 centimeters thick. He raised the crossbow, braced it. He pressed his eye to the sight. The red dot locked steadily onto the center of the wooden stack. Lu Ming drew a deep breath, held it, and gently squeezed the trigger. Twang. There was no deafening blast, only a short, dull vibration, like someone plucking a taut rubber band. The next instant, a cloud of wood splinters exploded from the stack in the corner. The bolt sliced through the thick planks as though cutting tofu, then buried itself deep in the concrete wall behind with residual momentum. It sank 3 centimeters into the wall. The bolt tail vibrated violently, humming continuously. Lu Ming walked forward and stared at the clean penetration hole, swallowing hard. What penetrating power if this struck a person? Forget body armor. Even the thick cotton overcoats would be pierced clean through, and it made no noise. The victim would collapse without ever knowing what killed them, a superb piece of gear. Lu Ming grabbed the bolt shaft and pulled hard, but it did not shift an inch. He eventually braced his foot against the wall and strained to yank it free. The bolt head was undamaged, not a speck of paint chipped off. This crossbow was now his primary long-range weapon. With it, even a burly brute like Zhang Shang would be forced to his knees 50 m away. Lu Ming admired his new toy for a long while. He then mounted a hook and hung this deadly armament in the most accessible spot, by the entrance to the left of the front door. If anyone tried to force their way inside, he could grab it in an instant and loose a bolt. That would be his first greeting. It would be simple, brutal, fatal. After testing his new weapon, Lu Ming did not rest. The hard renovations were complete. Yet a critical problem remained for survival inside this steel box air. The apocalypse brought not only bitter cold, but plagues as well. Logically speaking, frigid temperatures should prevent corpses from decomposing. Strangely enough, some bodies rotted regardless. Rotting stench, toxic gas from piled rubbish, and potential viruses would soon fill the outside world. If he kept the windows closed, the flat would turn into a poison chamber. If he opened them, external toxins would seep inside. A top-tier fresh air ventilation system was non-negotiable. Lu Ming climbed the ladder and examined the complex reserved pipe joints. Inside the suspended ceiling, beside him stood several huge black cylindrical canisters. He had bought them at great cost from the dark web, military-grade nuclear, biological, and chemical nuclear, biological, chemical filter canisters. These cartridges contain specialized activated carbon and catalysts. They filtered not only fine particulate matter, but also sarin gas and anthrax spores. With these installed, the air inside would remain pure. Click. Lu Ming twisted a filter canister firmly onto the connector, tightened the bolts, and applied sealant. He could not trust old Wang with this work, nor dared to let him handle it. This concerned his very life, and Lu Ming completed every step personally. 1 to 3. Sweat dripped down his cheeks onto the steel floor panels, making faint plop sounds. Yet he felt no exhaustion. Every bolt he tightened was another lock securing his survival. He kept working deep into the night. Huff. Lu Ming jumped down. He brushed dust off his hands. Power on. Test run. H. The fresh air unit activated with a soft drone like a gentle breeze. Lu Ming held his palm up to the air outlet. Cool, clean air streamed out. He took a deep breath. There was no formaldehyde left over from renovations. No exhaust fumes drifting from the street. Only pure air cleansed through layer upon layer of filtration. This was the scent of safety. Lu Ming stood in the center of the living room and surveyed his surroundings. There were steel walls, bulletproof windows, filtered air, and a lethal crossbow hanging behind the front door. This once ordinary small apartment had transformed into an impregnable fortress. It still looked cold and bare, resembling a prison, only halfway finished. But he knew this was just the beginning. Soon he would fill this frigid steel box with his mountain of stockpiled supplies, turning it into the warmest, most luxurious haven in the apocalypse. Interior furnishing. Lu Ming looked over the empty living room, a hopeful smile tugging at his lips. In his past life, he could only admire luxury mansions scrolling through other people's social media feeds. In this life, he would live better than anyone else amid the end of the world. Tomorrow, he would fill every empty space. With the workers gone, Lu Ming sealed the explosion-proof door and engaged every mechanical deadbolt. The thick crossbar settled into place, turning the 18th floor apartment into his absolute private domain. Now came the reward his hoarding instinct had been waiting for. He entered the reinforced storage room and summoned crates from the subspace ring. Mineral water appeared first, stacking across the lowest racks in clean, stable rows. Instant noodles followed in dozens of flavors, covering an entire wall with brightly colored cartons. Canned meat, self-heating rice, hot pot meals, seasonings, and preserved vegetables filled the remaining shelves. Generators occupied the living room beside carefully organized drums of diesel. Large battery banks and solar equipment waited as backups for the day the electrical grid failed. A treadmill gave Lu Ming a way to maintain his body when leaving the fortress became impossible. The master bedroom received a wide bed, thick bedding, hand warmers, and the polar operations suit. He even placed living plants near the protected window, preserving a small piece of green against the coming white wasteland. Water barrels filled the bathroom, while a reverse osmosis purifier converted questionable sources into something safe to drink. Lu Ming tested the system and tasted clean water without chlorine or sediment. Then he sank into a leather sofa, heated a spicy meal, and connected his game console. An enormous television displayed games, films, survival guides, medical books, and the entertainment archives stored on his server. Outside would become a frozen graveyard. Inside, Lu Ming intended to eat hot food, exercise, learn, play, and remain mentally human. Comfort was not weakness when it prevented loneliness from destroying judgment. Information mattered just as much, so he activated the 12-monitor surveillance wall. Hidden cameras covered the elevator lobby, corridor, building entrance, parking garage, garden, and exterior walls. No visitor could approach his floor without appearing on multiple screens. Zhang Shang remained visible inside the security booth, gambling with other guards and acting like a petty king. Aunt Lu appeared near the trash area, collecting cardboard without realizing it would soon become precious fuel. Lin Xian checked her makeup beside the elevator, still obsessed with appearances while the temperature continued falling. Lu Ming watched them without speaking, learning routines, relationships, and every route through the complex. The Daily Mystery Box then released 10 military-grade portable power stations. Each one carried enough capacity to recharge an ordinary phone dozens of times. Built-in solar panels allowed the units to recover energy whenever even weak light reached them. Lu Ming connected them immediately as emergency support for cameras, communications, and ventilation. Layered systems meant one failure would never blind or suffocate him. Then every monitor flickered at once. Blue-violet lightning ripped across the night sky without rain. A purplish-red glow spread through the clouds, making the heavens resemble a deep wound. Lu Ming recognized the phenomenon from his first life. Earth's magnetic field was destabilizing, and heat was beginning to escape the atmosphere at a terrifying rate. Television channels interrupted normal programming with the same emergency announcement. Experts finally admitted that global temperatures could collapse by more than 50 degrees Celsius. Within 1 week, the public had received its warning far too late. Lu Ming had received his warning through death, and he had spent every remaining day turning it into survival. The emergency anchor urged citizens to stockpile food, warm clothing, medicine, and water before travel became impossible. A predicted minimum near -70 degrees Celsius turned the broadcast studio deathly quiet. Lu Ming switched off the television because the report contained nothing he had not already lived through. His banking application showed only a small remaining balance after loans, construction, food, medicine, and equipment. Keeping even that amount felt wasteful when currency would soon lose every practical use. He drove into the violet night for one final purchasing run. An outdoor store sold him solid fuel, refined coal, and additional fire-starting supplies. These backups could boil water and preserve heat if generators failed or diesel became inaccessible. Next, Lu Ming entered a 24-hour bookstore and ignored shelves filled with business motivation. He chose medical manuals, wilderness guides, repair references, agricultural knowledge, military training books, novels, comics, and complete entertainment collections. Digital archives were convenient, but physical books required no electricity and could survive decades. They would protect his mind during the endless darkness as surely as food protected his body. With the remaining money, Lu Ming entered a fried chicken restaurant and ordered hundreds of spicy burgers. The kitchen erupted into action after the manager confirmed he could actually pay. Family buckets, egg tarts, fried chicken, and hot side dishes filled every available counter. A nearby drink shop prepared 100 cups of sweet milk tea for the same mysterious customer. In peaceful times, the order looked ridiculous. In extreme cold, sugar, fat, warmth, and familiar flavor could restore both energy and the will to continue. Lu Ming loaded the Jinbai van until food aromas saturated the entire cabin. He drove to the abandoned warehouse, closed the gate, and activated the subspace ring. Coal, books, burgers, milk tea, and every final purchase vanished into carefully assigned storage sections. The ring's remaining gaps disappeared until the vast space felt complete. Lu Ming checked his account again and found nothing meaningful left. That zero brought relief rather than panic. Every borrowed yuan had become calories, medicine, steel, knowledge, electricity, clean water, or defensive power. Debt collectors could keep calling until frozen networks silenced them forever. Lu Ming returned home and stepped through the blast door as warm filtered air washed over his face. He removed the worn backpack that had carried documents, cash, medicine, and his last connection to ordinary life. Then he dropped it into the trash beside the entrance. No more wandering, begging, or trusting strangers with his survival. He crossed the living room and stood before the thick bulletproof window. Outside remained a city clinging to routine beneath an unnatural sky. Lu Ming closed the blackout curtains, separating that doomed world from the fortress he had built to outlive it. On November 29th, the outside temperature had fallen to 10 degrees Celsius, and every breath on the street became visible. Lu Ming inspected the 20-centimeter blast door, turning its mechanical lock until 18 steel bolts buried themselves inside the reinforced frame. He lowered the wrist-thick crossbar into place, separating his warm fortress from debt collectors, neighbors, rioters, disease, and approaching death. Inside, the ventilation system circulated lavender-scented air through military filters, leaving the apartment silent enough for his heartbeat to sound loud. The old company chat still demanded reports, overtime, and obedience. As though collapsing civilization cared about quarterly performance, Lu Ming muted the messages, remembering how that same boss once treated exhausted workers as disposable tools. The residential group complained about weak heating and falling temperatures, unaware that frozen pipes would soon make those arguments meaningless. Lin Xian sent another sweet message, pretending she only needed to borrow a ladder and testing whether her former servant remained available. Lu Ming told her the ladder was gone, then ignored the anger that immediately followed from the apartment below. He checked the purified water first, confirming the system still produced a clean stream despite the increasingly unstable city supply. The nuclear, biological, and chemical filter glowed green, promising breathable air even when corpses, smoke, and disease poisoned the neighborhood. Beside the entrance waited the silent crossbow, tactical flashlight, entrenching tool, and dagger, each positioned for immediate defense. Every shelf stood full, every battery held a charge, and every camera watched a route enemies might use. Lu Ming opened a bottle of red wine and looked at the calendar displaying the final minutes of November. His bank account was empty, but his storage ring held food, fuel, medicine, knowledge, heat, and enough comfort for years. The apartment he once feared losing had become irrelevant. What mattered was the fortress he had built inside its borrowed walls. He remembered waking with clean hands, then remembered dying with Su Fei's knife cutting through his starving body. That powerless man had disappeared during 30 relentless days of preparation, replaced by someone who understood exactly what survival demanded. Outside, millions still trusted money, rules, employers, and promises that would vanish the moment the temperature collapsed. Inside, Lu Ming trusted steel, calories, clean water, preserved medicine, silent weapons, and memories purchased through unbearable pain. The clock moved closer to midnight, but fear no longer controlled his breathing or tightened his empty stomach. For the first time since returning, he allowed himself to sit still and feel the warmth surrounding him. Whatever the frozen world demanded next, Lu Ming would meet it as the owner of his fate rather than anyone's prey. The apocalypse had once reduced Lu Ming to meat. His second life turned every memory into preparation. Steel protected his body, but resolve protected his humanity. Lu Ming entered the frozen future alive, armed, supplied, and finally impossible to exploit.